You say that my gentle, virtuous, peerlessly beautiful wife is a demon. Not only a demon, but the demon emperor. So what of it? Li Yun stood with his hands clasped behind his back, revealing his radiant golden body of merit 100 zhang tall in the unseen realm. My merits are boundless. What harm is there if my wife is a demon? In Yuhang Commandery, in Whooping Alley, his words seemed to linger in the night air. Gongs and drums thundered, Swana horns blared, and the whole street was alive with festive splendor. Today was the wedding day of the famed little divine physician of Yuhang Commandery, Li Yun. Anyone in the city with the slightest status had come in person. High officials from the prefecture sent generous gifts, and neighbors from the alley brought their heartfelt blessings of their own accord. At the wedding banquet, Li Yun held a cup of wine, swaying slightly as he made a full round of toasts. Only after circling the hall did he plead that he could no longer hold his drink, and asked to retire to the inner quarters to rest. In truth, his capacity for drink was excellent. But with a beautiful, captivating wife waiting for him, who would foolishly stay behind to drink with a hall full of men. Just as he was about to slip away, a sudden chime rang in his mind. You have a new "Are they dead yet?" order. Please handle it promptly. Li Yun fell silent. Could the heavens really not grant him a single day of rest? Li Yun let out a deep sigh. He was a transmigrator. In his previous life, he had been a doctor struggling tirelessly into his 30s before finally glimpsing a bright future, only to be caught up in a hospital dispute and die on the spot, an innocent casualty. When he opened his eyes again, he had become an infant in swaddling clothes. He had been reborn. His father was a physician. When an epidemic broke out in the city, the man went of his own accord to treat it. The plague was quelled, but he himself never returned. When his mother received the news, grief consumed her. Weakened by sorrow and by the lack of proper care during her nursing period, she also passed away not long after, leaving only Li Yun and his sister, 6 years his senior, to depend on each other. Faced with such a calamitous beginning, Li Yun once thought of ending it all and starting over. It was then that the "Are they dead yet?" system, shortened to the "Dead Yet" system, bounded. As long as Li Yun treated illness and saved lives, he could obtain a portion of the merit his patients had accumulated, the share determined by the severity of their condition. These merits could be used by Li Yun to enhance his skills and even to purchase additional lifespan. At first, after suffering that fatal dispute in his past life, he had no wish to practice medicine again. But with the system already in his hands, he could only take up the healer's path once more. Unwittingly, he had already become the divine physician of Yuhang Commandery, renowned throughout the whole of Jiangnan. The number of people seeking his aid grew by the day. Whenever someone on the brink of death needed help, he would receive a reminder pointing him toward the sufferer's location. Saving a life in such moments would grant him even greater merit. This time, the one seeking treatment had already reached the vicinity of Whooping Alley. "Save me, divine physician, Li, save me." Hearing this cry, all the guests turned to look. The newcomer was none other than Lu Laolio, a constable of the commandery city, accompanied by 2 others, and they were carrying what looked like a desiccated corpse. Seated among the honored guests, County Lieutenant Wu Xiu sprang to his feet in fury. "Lu Laolio, are you deliberately bringing misfortune upon us?" Li Yun was his brother-in-law, and also a physician. Had someone fallen gravely ill and come seeking treatment, he might have overlooked it. But bringing in a corpse was going too far. On a joyous day, how could this not be an ill omen? "Brother-in-law, don't be angry. He can still be saved." After offering this brief reassurance, Li Yun calmly took up his medicine chest and walked into the main courtyard, turning his gaze toward the so-called desiccated corpse. It was a young man, his complexion a sickly bluish-white, eye sockets, sunken cheeks hollowed, his body reduced almost to skin and bone. With a single glance, Li Yun identified the illness and could not help but mutter inwardly. He had seen cases of depleted vital essence before, but never one drained to this extent. Such a condition usually came from overuse of fierce medicinal stimulants. Where had this man been indulging himself? He casually reached out to take the man's pulse, and his expression turned slightly strange. There were no signs of medicinal overuse at all. Normally, such tonics would leave traces, whether under modern instruments or a traditional physician's fingers, they could not be hidden. Whether someone had taken such medicines could be felt in an instant. Yet this man showed no such signs. Under normal circumstances, at this level of depletion, the body's self-protection would have failed long before. He should not even have been able to stand. What kind of beauty had led to such a medical miracle? Noticing the shift in Li Yun's expression, Lu Laolu grew nervous. "Divine physician Li, what is it? It's not serious. He won't die." Lu Laolu hurried to flatter him. If he was still alive when he reached you, it means his fate was never meant to end here. "Who in all Jiangnan hasn't heard of your skill with 10 needles, Li Shizhen?" Li Yun's face darkened. That nickname, Li 10 Needles, was better left unmentioned. In his past life, he had studied Western medicine. In this life, he had started anew with traditional medicine. After accumulating some merit, he had immediately invested it into his skills. His medical skill had grown ever higher. By now, he could usually drag someone back from death's door with no more than 10 needles. Thus, people had given him the sobriquet, Li 10 Needles. He had long since given up protesting. Let others call him what they wished. Everyone stepped back a little. The patient's breath was already as faint as a thread. It would be inconvenient to move him again. After dispersing the curious onlookers, Li Yun opened the patient's clothing to examine him more closely. To an untrained eye, this patient might have seemed free of any serious illness. In reality, his condition was among the most troublesome of all. His ailment was simple to name: depletion of vital essence. But how was he to restore what had been lost? The patient's body had been drained to the point where it could no longer function properly. In such a state, even a ginseng root would yield no benefit. His system could not absorb its power. Fortunately, Li Yun had a cheat. He inserted needles into several key acupoints, forcefully stirring the patient's waning vitality and pushing him into a state akin to a final flare of life, so that his bodily functions began to move once more. Only then did he place a ginseng pill into the man's mouth. Once it was digested, the patient's vitality would gradually be restored. Though he had burned through much of his potential and would require careful nourishment thereafter, at least his life would be preserved. After a short spell of work, it became clear that the man's breathing had returned to normal. Even those who had long heard of Li Yun's reputation could not suppress their amazement when they saw him revive a desiccated corpse with such apparent ease. All right, he's fine now. Take him back to rest. No meat, no wine for the time being. For the first 3 days, let him drink more rice porridge or gently nourishing decoctions, and only then slowly build him up again. After delivering his instructions, Li Yun, still thinking of how the man had managed to exhaust himself so, without any stimulants, could not help asking one more question. What's his story, and why bring him here at this hour? Night had only just fallen. The wedding had been held at dusk, and not much time had passed since then. Normally this would be the very peak of activity in pleasure quarters, so why had they ended up carrying him here instead? Only then did Lu Laolu explain. He's the young master of Merchant Feng's household. 2 days ago, he went out of the city with friends for an outing. Not one of them has returned. Merchant Feng offered a reward of 1,000 taels for their return, so the brothers went out beyond the walls to search. We found them at the entrance of Huangjia village. Because our legs are the swiftest, the 3 of us brought young Master Feng back first. There are more than 10 others still on the road. Li Yun had heard of Merchant Feng as well, the wealthiest man in Yuhang Commandery. No wonder they had brought young Master Feng back first. Hearing that there were more than 10 others, Li Yun felt a dull ache in his heart. Had he known, he might never have asked. With so many hovering at death's door, there was no way he could in good conscience return to the bridal chamber and pretend nothing had happened. Wan Jun was gentle and considerate, surely she would understand. Thinking of his beloved wife waiting in their new home, Li Yun was also in a hurry. In his past life, he had remained a bachelor primarily because his education had taken too long. Undergraduate studies, graduate school, residency training. By the time others faced midlife crises at 30, his career was just beginning. He was always busy, barely making ends meet, and naturally dared not easily pursue romance. Just when his circumstances improved, he was granted a restart in life. In this life, he had few opportunities to interact with women, as ladies of noble families were kept secluded within their chambers. However, half a year ago, while gathering herbs in the mountains, Li Yun suddenly received a divine hint. Following its guidance, he discovered by Wan Juan, who bore terrifying claw marks on her neck and abdomen, likely from a wild beast. Such severe injuries would have been fatal had she not encountered Li Yun. He brought her home and cared for her meticulously for 3 months. In truth, her wounds healed within 3 days. The remainder was recovery and scar removal. Over time, affection blossomed between them, and they naturally became engaged. Now that they were finally married, Li Yun had no desire to spend all his time working, but thinking of the dozen lives at stake. He sighed. Fine, he would go treat them quickly and return promptly. Meanwhile, in the bridal chamber, the ostensibly gentle and delicate Bai Wanjun lifted her own veil. Her expression was impassive, exuding an aura of authority without anger. Seated on the chair, she radiated the demeanor of a sovereign. Before her, a woman in yellow robes knelt on the ground, her face brimming with flattery and reverence. She had large fox-like eyes, enchanting and bright. The Bai Wanjun seated on the chair was nothing like the gentle woman she appeared to be before Li Yun. She was a strikingly heroic figure with sharp sword-like brows and brilliant eyes that seemed to gleam with cold light. Being stared at by her evoked an inexplicable sense of dread. The kneeling woman in yellow trembled uncontrollably. Your Majesty, this little fox has always been loyal to you. Since your fall, I have been unable to sleep, searching tirelessly until I found you here. Your Majesty, you cannot abandon me. I am no longer your Majesty. Bai Wanjun said coldly. The little fox quickly replied, how could that be? You will always be my king. Moreover, your battle shook the 8 directions. Now that your injuries are healed, you can return to command the world and rule the demon race. Who would dare defy you? Commanding the demon race. It holds no interest for me. Bai Wanjun's gaze was deep and tranquil. She was a demon king from the north. Some time ago, she heard that her elder sister had been harmed by a southern demon king and was trapped in Pingyang Valley outside Yuhang City. She traveled 1,000 miles to rescue her only to be ambushed by 7 demon kings, including her own sister. In desperation, she unleashed a killing spree, leaving 4 of the 7 dead and 3 severely wounded. She herself was gravely injured and near death, but Li Yun saved her. Li Yun cared for her with unwavering devotion, allowing her to experience the feeling of being cherished, a sensation she had never known since childhood. She found joy in this life and had no desire to return. Go back, go wherever you wish, but do not seek me out again. I enjoy this peaceful life. Your Majesty. One last warning, do not call me Your Majesty. Bai Wanjun's face was stern, her eyes flashing with a fierce glare, a clear warning. Seeing her resolve, the little fox understood. If Your Majesty refuses to return, then I will stay here as your maid. Please take me in. Bai Wanjun scrutinized her. She trusted the loyalty of this subordinate. Yet looking at her seductive and alluring appearance, Bai Wanjun grew uneasy. Having lived in the mortal world, she had learned some worldly knowledge. It was said that fox spirits were masters at seducing men. You may stay, but you must not take human form. Overjoyed, the little fox transformed into a small white fox, wagging her tail incessantly before Bai Wanjun, resembling a dog. Very well. This is settled. Having dealt with the little fox, Bai Wanjun's ears twitched. She sensed something happening in the front courtyard. Quick to react, the little fox said, Your Majesty, wait here. I will investigate for you. With that, she dashed out. Before long, she returned. Your Majesty, someone is on the verge of death and has summoned the master for treatment. The little fox paused, then added, I detected a faint demonic aura on that person, likely the work of a wild spirit. Damnable little demon. How dare you disrupt my wedding? Bai Wanjun was furious, wanting to slam the table. Ever since she realized her feelings for Li Yun, she wished to be with him, but human customs were too cumbersome. After the engagement, the couple could not meet. Now that they were finally married, a demon had to spoil her happiness. Wait, follow him quickly. My husband is gentle and weak. Do not let that demon harm him. Understood. Watching the little fox leave, Bai Wanjun felt at ease. The little fox's strength was second only to a demon king. With the surrounding demon kings either dead or wounded, her intervention would suffice. Meanwhile, Li Yun followed the constables as they rushed out of the city, moving against the flow of people entering. Outside Yuhang Prefecture, sparse branches stretched beneath the waning moon. The night was deep and cicadas chirped intermittently. Few travelers were on the main road, only a group of constables, each carrying a withered figure. The night road was treacherous and burdened, as they were, their pace was naturally slow. Brother Wang, don't you feel the weight on your back getting heavier? A young constable suddenly asked. When they first lifted these young masters, each weighed no more than a few dozen jin, light as a feather. Now they were heavy, bending their backs. This casual remark sent a chill through everyone's hearts. The strange circumstances surrounding these young men combined with this anomaly only heightened their fear. The leading middle-aged constable said in a low voice, Don't panic. It's not that the men have grown heavier. You're just tired from the long walk, so they feel heavier. Let's hurry. Once we enter the city, they can be saved. Encouraged by his words, the constables forced themselves to ignore the inconsistency. But as the middle-aged man turned, he saw by the torchlight that the constable nearest him was carrying 2 figures on his back. One was the unconscious young master, the other was a withered old woman with green glowing eyes. Noticing his gaze, she grinned, revealing a mouthful of sharp teeth. The middle-aged man was so startled that he dropped his torch, which went out upon hitting the ground. Now they could only rely on the faint moonlight to see. The surrounding trees seemed to transform into monsters ready to come alive, while shadows moved on their backs. With a scream, the middle-aged man dropped his burden and fled. Fear was contagious. Sensing the danger, the others also discarded their loads and scrambled away. Behind them came a sinister, aged laugh that sent chills down their spines. The constables ran even faster. Just as Li Yun stepped out of the city, he heard a series of prompts, over a dozen of them. An imminent timeout meant the patients were about to die. Sensing their location, Li Yun quickly accelerated toward them. The accompanying constables were stunned. Could Divine Physician Li be a martial arts master? It's only reasonable for a doctor to run fast, isn't it? Li Yun paid them no mind. He couldn't afford to lose the merits he was about to earn. He had come out for overtime. He absolutely had to get paid. Besides, he wanted to finish quickly and return. Soon after leaving the city, he encountered a dozen terrified constables fleeing toward him. Li Yun didn't ask what had happened. Lu Laolu and 2 other constables arriving later stopped the panicked men. Grabbing one who seemed calmer, Lu asked, Old Wang, what's wrong? Ghosts. There are ghosts. Seeing a dozen grown men so frightened, Lu Laolia's heart also skipped a beat. If there are ghosts, why didn't you stop the young divine physician? Quick chase after him. Li Yun was a renowned physician in Jiangnan, and no one knew how many connections he had with influential figures. The mere fact that his brother-in-law was a county magistrate was enough to make Lu Laolu anxious. If anything happened to Li Yun, they would be in deep trouble. Confronting ghosts might not necessarily mean death, given their numbers, But if Li Yun was harmed, their fate would be far worse than death. Led by Lu Laolio, the constables turned back. When they arrived at the scene, however, they only saw Li Yun methodically inserting needles. By the time they reached him, he had already revived everyone. Divine Physician Li, are you alright? Why would I be? But several people here have fractured bones from falls. That's more serious. Li Yun calmly withdrew his needles. At that moment, the middle-aged constable Old Wang tremblingly approached and asked, "Did you not notice anything strange?" What could there be? To Li Yun, all he saw were dying people, his merits. Alright, they're all saved. Take them back and let them rest well. I have things to do. With that, Li Yun slung his medicine case over his shoulder and ran back to the city, leaving only his dashing silhouette. The constables exchanged bewildered glances. Medicine and martial arts are not separate. It's perfectly reasonable for Divine Physician Li to know some martial arts. In a dark corner, unseen by anyone, a weasel, standing on two legs, glared with greed and resentment. He was the old woman's husband. Just moments ago, he had watched as his wife lunged at Li Yun, only to burst into flames 3 zhang away. Within a few breaths, she was reduced to ashes. Li Yun, seemingly oblivious, had simply treated the patients. The golden light radiating from him was unmistakably the light of merit. Such a powerful aura of merit could only belong to a 10-lifetime virtuous person. Consuming the flesh of such a benefactor would surely grant immortality and enlightenment. After saving the patient, Li Yun hurried home. On the way, he casually checked his panel. User Li Yun traits: merit, protection, immunity to all evils, medical skills, Qi observation, LV 55, pulse diagnosis, LV 10, pharmacology, LV 55, suturing, LV 30, bone setting, LV 60, acupuncture, LV 70, martial skills, health cultivation, LV 99, Qi shield, LV 99, barehand combat, LV 99, weapon combat, LV 99, body movement, LV 90, hidden weapons, LV 60, merit balance 9800, lifespan balance 99 years. Having earned enough merit for an upgrade tonight, Li Yun directly added it to his body movement skill. LV 90, LV 91. After the enhancement in body movement, Li Yun's speed increased even further. Having died from a medical dispute in his past life, Li Yun still carried some psychological pressure in this one. Thus, after acquiring basic healing abilities, he began to focus on other areas. A medical saint. No, I am a martial saint. However, over the years, Li Yun rarely engaged in fights, mainly dedicating himself to healing and saving lives. Most of the merit earned from treating patients was used to enhance his martial arts cultivation. He sought nothing more than self-preservation. As for lifespan, Li Yun didn't lack it for now. He would worry about it after 99 years. When he rushed home, the banquet had already ended. With such a major incident occurring in the city Wuxiu, as the county magistrate naturally had to handle it. Only his sister Li Lin remained to manage the household. But as a woman, the guests felt it inappropriate to linger and took their leave one after another. Li Yun went straight to the inner courtyard, pushed open the door to the bridal chamber, bolted it behind him, and walked toward Bai Wanjun. In the room, Bai Wanjun sat on the edge of the bed, dressed in a red wedding gown, her head covered by a veil. He lifted the veil impatiently, and upon seeing the woman beneath adorned in her finest, Li Yun was instantly captivated by her charm. Bai Wanjun was already beautiful on ordinary days, but with her makeup today, she was breathtakingly gorgeous. She merely lowered her head in shyness, and it left Li Yun parched. In moments of nervousness, people always find ways to keep busy. Sorry to have kept you waiting. It's alright, husband. You heal the sick and save lives, earning boundless merit. How could I mind? Bai Wanjun said softly, her tone seemingly magnanimous. Li Yun was deeply moved. In his past life, he had seen too many colleagues whose heads were adorned with green hats due to their busy work. To have a wife like this was his fortune. Wanjun, you must be hungry. Have something to eat first. Li Yun opened the food box on the table, revealing warm, delicate dishes. According to local custom, a bride neither eats nor drinks on her wedding day to avoid needing to relieve herself during the ceremony. With the lengthy wedding process and the elaborate attire, this tradition had gradually emerged. Li Yun didn't care about such customs and had even asked his sister to prepare a food box so his delicate bride wouldn't go hungry. Feeling Li Yun's thoughtfulness, Bai Wanjun said softly, "Thank you, husband." Outside the window, the little fox, having reverted to her original form, was utterly bewildered. Was that gentle voice coming from her master? Was this really her master? Impossible. I must be hallucinating from running too hard. The master said her husband was frail and helpless. Frail? With speed like that? If she weren't a demon, even an ordinary dog couldn't keep up. A fox. Meanwhile, Li Yun and Bai Wanjun were enjoying their meal in harmony. Li Yun, with ulterior motives, ate quickly. But Bai Wanjun took small, delicate bites, her movements graceful. The little fox was dumbfounded again. She couldn't help recalling the scene of her first encounter with her master, who had devoured an entire wild boar in 3 bites. It was terrifying. And now, fake, it's all fake. Li Yun, having eaten his fill, didn't urge her, but simply watched Bai Wanjun quietly. He found every move she made beautiful, unable to look away. His gaze was so intense that a blush crept onto Bai Wanjun's face, and her eyes darted away shyly. "Husband, why do you look at me like that?" "Because you are so beautiful." Joy and shyness mingled in Bai Wanjun's eyes. She set down her chopsticks, wiped her mouth with a silk cloth, and whispered, "Husband, it's time for the nuptial wine." Knowing what this meant, Li Yun quickly poured the wine, they crossed arms, and drank it down in one gulp. With this, the wedding ceremony was about to enter its final step. "Let me help you undress, husband." The newly made solid wood bed was sturdy, making no creaking sounds. The peeping little fox only saw the blankets heave. Moments later, the waves subsided. Li Yun deeply understood the meaning of the phrase, short spring night. The ancients said an hour of spring night is worth 1,000 gold, implying they knew achieving that hour was indeed difficult. But no problem. Big Bro is an old-school doctor. Conditioning the body is a minor issue. Lying in bed until the sun was high, Li Yun felt reluctant to go to work. Fortunately, his constitution was strong. Even after using acupuncture, he recovered quickly. Looking at his tired and languid wife beside him, Li Yun felt secretly proud. His combat prowess was still formidable. "Is my husband awake? Let me dress you." As Bai Wanjun tried to get up, Li Yun stopped her, saying, "You've worked hard tonight too. Get some more rest. We'll go to my sister's house for dinner tonight." As the eldest sister was like a mother according to the customs of the time, it was appropriate for Li Yun and Bai Wanjun to serve her tea. But Li Lin declined, saying she only wished for her brother's marital harmony. As a married woman, she needn't put on airs. The evening family dinner, however, needed careful preparation. Li Yun gave his instructions, ordered the maids to attend to Bai Wanjun, and then left for the clinic. As soon as Li Yun left, Bai Wanjun, who had seemed so weak, instantly perked up. Little Fox is here. How did last night go?" Little Fox had returned late the previous night, and Bai Wanjun had wanted to ask, but feared disturbing Li Yun, so she had waited until now. Little Fox quickly recounted what she had seen. The master, protected by his merit, annihilated the evil spirit in an instant. "That's good." Bai Wanjun was relieved to learn Li Yun was safe. But Little Fox said, "What the master killed was a mere ghost, but those patients all carried demonic aura. This matter is likely far from over." "Well said. Little Fox, from now on you will protect him without any negligence." Little Fox understands. A clever fox knows how to create her own job. Little Fox joyfully accepted the order and rushed to the medical clinic to find Li Yun. Upon arriving, she found the door tightly shut. Where has the master gone? Could he have gone out on a house call? Just as Little Fox was about to leave to search for Li Yun, she overheard people near the clinic discussing, "These times are really troubled. I heard Dr. Li was called out to save someone even during his wedding yesterday, and now someone came again early this morning. I heard these patients are very strange. Maybe they've run into some mountain spirits or wild ghosts." The people nearby spoke cautiously, but being a demon, Little Fox heard them clearly. "Oh no, the master went out of the city. If he encounters a demon." At this thought, Little Fox's fur stood on end. If Li Yun got hurt, her master would devour her in one bite, but she'd definitely be ground into fox paste. "I have to catch up." Following Li Yun's scent, Little Fox bolted, moving so fast, she became a mere blur. "What was that thing that just went by, eh? Looked like a big white rat. Are you stupid? Since when are rats white?" By now, Li Yun was already on the road out of the city, having heard that many people in Shi family village had suddenly fallen ill, suspected to be a plague. The news reached the county office, which immediately sent for him. In these times, a plague was no trivial matter. Thus, besides Li Yun, several dozen constables accompanied him, and even old Lu was among the group. The group was quite resentful. After saving those young masters last night, they were exhausted and terrified, and without enough rest, they were urgently summoned for another mission today. The main concern was the terror of the plague. They had to guard the city gates and passes, isolate the patients, and secure the surrounding roads to prevent anyone suspected of being infected from fleeing. This was the best plan for managing the plague. Regardless of whether the patients could be saved, the plague must not be allowed to spread. This naturally strained the county office's manpower, so they were reassigned. But they were given the most dangerous and arduous task, accompanying the physician to the outbreak site. "Boss, did you offend the county magistrate?" The members of Lu Leolia's squad were also whispering among themselves. Logically, after the hard work last night, even if tasks were to be assigned today, they shouldn't have been sent to the most dangerous and arduous locations. Lu Laolu shook his head helplessly and said, "Don't talk nonsense. The county magistrate just values me more work for the able." He said so, but deep down he knew the truth. Shen Jishan, the magistrate of Yuhang County, had been newly appointed at the end of last year. At first nothing seemed amiss, but after Shen Jishan saw Lu Leolia's wife, he frequently came to curry favor and grew close to him. Lu Laolio, as a constable captain, naturally saw through Shen Zishan's intentions. After once thwarting Shen Zishan's pretense of drunken madness, he had thoroughly offended him. Ever since then he had been given a hard time. But there was little he could do. A higher official can crush a lower one, especially when one is an official and the other a mere clerk. For now, Shen Jishan was only torturing him with such methods, so he endured the hardship. It wouldn't be good to speak out for Shun Jishan might not suffer consequences, but he would face furious retaliation. However, dragging his subordinates into this hardship made Lu Laolu somewhat uneasy. Brothers, be careful this time. Protect Dr. Li well. With him here, this minor plague is surely nothing to worry about. Li Yun was just eating a melon when he heard them bring up his name. He quickly said, "You all be careful yourselves, try not to get infected." If they did get infected, he could indeed treat them. Shijia village was relatively close to the county seat. The party talked as they traveled and soon arrived. At the village entrance, two able-bodied young men were already guarding. They were assigned by the village chief to block the exit and prevent villagers from wandering out. By keeping people inside the village, any further infection would be confined to the village. Those not yet infected could still flee later if they wished. If everyone were allowed to run wild and spread the plague everywhere, then even the healthy would find no place to escape. Thus, guarding the crossroads benefited both others and themselves. By the time Li Yun and his group arrived, the village chief had been eagerly waiting. Lu Laolu stepped forward and said, "This is Dr. Li, who has come to treat the sick. I am the constable captain from the county. Have the patients in your village been properly settled?" The village chief quickly replied, "Everything is arranged. Those with symptoms have been locked in several houses at the west end of the village. Mugwort has been burned everywhere." Now, Li Yun nodded. Although this was ancient times, when faced with a plague, they knew isolation and disinfection just by different methods. Brother 6, take 3 or 5 men with me to see the patients. The rest should find out who had contact with them. Those are also high risk. Finally, leave 2 to help the village chief guard the village road, and don't let any patients leave. Before entering the village, Li Yun had already put on a self-made mask and distributed them to the others. Then, led by the village chief, they went to find the patients. Along the way, Li Yun asked about the patient's specific symptoms. From the village chief, he learned that the outbreak had suddenly begun last night. Some people started vomiting, then developed persistent high fever, red eyes, and extreme agitation. Because of the commotion, the villagers found out and quickly gathered the affected ones together overnight. Suspecting it was a plague, they hurriedly reported it to the authorities. So far, no one had died, but every plague claimed many lives. The villagers were all relatives, and the village chief's expression was heavy. Li Yun said nothing more. Once the patients were cured, they would naturally feel reassured. The group reached the west end of the village. The air was thick with the smell of mugwort and the lingering odor of vomit, which was somewhat overwhelming. Masks were ineffective at this point. Li Yun, being a medical practitioner, considered this only a small scene, but Lu Laolu and the others could barely stand it, and all covered their noses. Unfazed, Li Yun opened the door. At the west end, there were 6 households, and more than 20 patients were centrally housed in these places. On average, about 4 per house, not too crowded. When Li Yun opened the door and looked inside, his brows immediately furrowed. His chi viewing art had reached a high level. Activating it, Li Yun could discern the toxic chi, evil chi, and imbalanced chi on a target. Illnesses within the human body essentially fell into these 3 categories. For example, imbalanced chi meant chi deficiency or chi excess. With chi excess, one becomes irritable, hot-tempered, and prone to inflammation. With chi deficiency, one feels lethargic, drowsy, and lacks appetite. All these are caused by internal imbalance. Evil chi means external pathogens entering the body, such as cold, dampness. Toxic chi means poisoning. With the chi viewing art activated, the Bodhi's condition was clear at a glance. This wasn't medicine at all. It was divine art. As for plagues, they usually involved evil chi, but when Li Yun looked, these people were all filled with toxic chi. If a physician treated them by expelling evil chi, they would surely die from such treatment. They don't have a plague, they are poisoned, and it's snake venom. The toxic chi coiled in snake-like shapes. It was undoubtedly snake venom. Here are some detox pills. Give them to the patients first to alleviate their symptoms. They'll go find where they were poisoned. Li Yun took out a bottle from his medical chest. The chest contained various emergency medicines he had refined in his spare time, capable of handling all kinds of situations. He had become a renowned miracle doctor at such a young age thanks to his own efforts and a little help from the system. Those present were astonished to hear Li Yun say it wasn't a plague, but snake venom. Had it not been for Li Yun's established reputation, they would have doubted his sanity. Lu Laolu asked doubtfully, if they were bitten by venomous snakes, there should be wounds on their bodies, right? And so many people bitten at once. Wouldn't there have been some commotion? He wasn't questioning Li Yun, merely voicing his confusion. In truth, Li Yun didn't know the answer either. But venom was venom, it couldn't be faked. Let's not worry about that for now. Well, find the medicine and save the people. Li Yun never insisted on getting to the bottom of things. As long as the problem could be solved, that was enough. Lu Laolu had seen this work style last night, and he quickly led his men to follow Li Yun. At this moment, outside Shijia village, a hunched old man and a graceful woman were staring here with malicious eyes. This woman, named Shihong, was a snake who had attained sentience. In her youth, she suffered a great calamity, but was fortunate to receive the help of the Huang couple, which allowed her to survive. From then on she became the Huang couple were, in their true forms, weasels. Half a month ago, old Huang's wife, having achieved some success in her cultivation, decided to seek a human's blessing. If she obtained a human's recognition, her future cultivation would naturally be much smoother. The person she chose was none other than the young master of the Feng family. Young Master Feng was naturally bold, never revering gods or spirits. Moreover, that night he had been drinking and in a fit of rage beat old Huang's wife to death. How could a weasel who had just attained sentience be a match for a hot-blooded young man? Old Huang, stricken with grief over the loss of his wife, ordered his descendants to harass the Feng family in anger. Feng, however, was even more ruthless and had a group of close friends. With many men gathered, a leader naturally emerged. Someone suggested sealing the weasel's den and smoking them out with fire. Could a pack of beasts really defy heaven? Thus all of the Huang family perished except for the old man, who had some cultivation. Consumed by grief and fury, old Huang's wife transformed into a vengeful spirit, luring these men to her and draining their vitality. She thought her vengeance was complete, but unexpectedly, even after the men were nearly drained dry, someone managed to save them. And old Huang's wife was utterly annihilated. When Shi Hong heard old Huang recount these events, she was filled with rage. Humans were too cruel, oppressing their kind so mercilessly. How could this be tolerated? Shi Hong was decisive. Last night, when old Huang came seeking help, they devised a plan. She immediately poisoned the villagers of Shi family village, disguising it as a plague. Old Huang, though not highly cultivated, was quite shrewd. He knew that humans placed great importance on plagues, and both constables and physicians would come. Unexpectedly, it was precisely these people who arrived, saving them the trouble of waiting. Are they the ones who harmed Sister Huang? Shi Hong's voice was hoarse, carrying a hint of a foul fishy odor. Old Huang said viciously, "It's them. They'll go and eat them now." Shi Hong was about to enter the village when old Huang stopped her, saying, "Fellow Taoist, don't rush. It will take them a long time to resolve the plague. When they are exhausted tonight, you can command the snake horde to surround them. None of them will escape." "Brother Huang, you are truly wise. Let's do it that way." Although Shi Hong cultivated quickly, she was simple-minded. She was completely unaware that while she wholeheartedly sought revenge for her friend had ulterior motives. This old weasel was a seasoned demon. Though his innate talent was poor, his ambition was immense. He knew that someone like Li Yun, protected by merit, could not be harmed by evil. But Li Yun was not invincible. He was still mortal. If killed, he would die. As long as Shi Hong could poison Li Yun, he could approach in his true form and devour his flesh. Even with merit protecting him, he would still be consumed. By devouring such a virtuous man, his cultivation would surely advance greatly. Then the vast world would be open to him. Perhaps he could even become a demon king one day. Now everything is ready. We just need him not to break the poison before dark. Shi Hong heard this and said proudly, "They are poisoned with my demonic venom. How could an ordinary mortal physician possibly cure it?" 2 hours later, Li Yun looked at the bubbling black medicinal decoction in the pot and casually divided it into dozens of portions. "Take this, give it to them. We're done here." Gathering herbs, preparing medicine, and boiling the decoction took no more than 2 hours in total. Efficiency was the key. The constables were also bewildered, but they followed orders. After a bowl of the medicine, all the patients began to suffer from violent diarrhea. Once the diarrhea passed, they recovered. Though still somewhat weak, they were clearly free of the illness. A miracle, doctor. The panicked villagers of Shi family village finally felt relieved. "All right, now just focus on recuperation. Eat something nourishing to regain your strength." Merit 680. The patient's symptoms were not severe, so the merit gained was not much. Li Yun didn't mind. He had a laid-back attitude. It didn't matter whether he earned a lot or a little. As long as he earned something, it was fine. After giving his medical advice, Li Yun prepared to leave. He added as a reminder, "You all should be careful too. These people didn't get poisoned for no reason. Think carefully about what happened." Li Yun only treated the illness. Investigating the case was left to Lu Laolu. Lu Laolu also looked bitter. How could he get a new case just by stepping out? He said helplessly, "Old Wang, see Dr. Li off." They certainly couldn't all return to the city together. They had to stay and investigate. Seeing that Li Yun was about to leave, old Huang grew anxious. This time they had tricked Li Yun into coming out. It wouldn't be so easy to trick him again. Fellow Taoist Shi. I understand. Shi Hong hadn't expected her demonic venom to be neutralized by a mortal, and so easily at that. He hadn't done anything special. Just picked some herbs, stirred them up, added a few centipedes, and some rooster blood. How the hell could that break the poison? Shi Hong doubted her own existence as a demon. But since the poison was already neutralized, she couldn't wait until nightfall. Hiss hiss. She flicked her tongue, emitting a sharp sound that only her kind could hear. Near Shi family village, with its mountains and waters, a vast number of snakes dwelled, both venomous and non-venomous. At that moment they all heeded Shi Hong's command, crawling out of their dens and surrounding Li Yun and old Huang. Old Huang had said that the main enemy was Li Yun, the others could be dealt with later. Moreover, Li Yun was just a frail, scholarly-looking physician, while the others were martial artists, and had some fighting ability. Dealing with Li Yun would obviously be easier. For a moment thousands of snakes slithered. What's that sound? Li Yun and Old Wang had just reached the village entrance when they heard a rustle. The sound of a single snake moving was faint, but when many snakes moved together the noise was quite noticeable. Snakes! So many snakes! Old Wang exclaimed hurriedly, pulling Li Yun back into the village. The nearby villagers hearing the commotion came out to see, and were also startled by the sight of the surging snake. What's going on? Why aren't these snakes afraid of people? Under normal circumstances, snakes wouldn't gather to invade human territory. This was too abnormal and frightened the people of Shi family village had always held a certain reverence for snakes. According to legend, their ancestors were connected to snakes, so they never killed snakes when they saw them. They couldn't understand why they were being besieged by a snake horde. Were they targeting Dr. Li? But it was the villagers who had been poisoned first, then Li Yun came. The villagers were terrified and confused, but Li Yun's eyes lit up. These snakes would be perfect for making medicinal wine, which was most nourishing and invigorating. With so many snakes, how much money could he make? The threat of the swarm of snakes was not taken seriously by Li Yun. How much can beasts change? Fetch some strong liquor and oil, and bring a bamboo basket and fire tongs. Li Yun had saved the villagers naturally, he had prestige. They retreated into the village, and soon someone brought oil, and others thoughtfully prepared some firewood. Li Yun poured oil, lit the firewood, and kindled a bonfire. Under the blazing flames the snake swarm dared not approach. Li Yun repeated the method, lighting several fires, causing the snakes to keep their distance, and only linger on the periphery. Then Li Yun picked up the fire tongs and bamboo basket, catching one snake after another with a single clamp. Take note, this non-venomous cauliflower snake is 300 when each, the black venomous snake is 501, and the red venomous snake is 1,000 when each. Just catch them, Bill, buy as many as you bring. Snakes can be used for medicine, wine, and food. With so many snakes delivered to our doorstep, how could we not catch them? Who cares what demons or monsters are behind it? I'm a living man. How could I be controlled by beasts? The villagers of Shijiakan were initially a bit scared, but upon hearing that a single snake could fetch so much money, they all went home to grab tools. What does 1,000 won mean? The average monthly income per household in Shijiakan was about 500 won. With you buying a snake for 1,000 won, I only worry that there aren't enough snakes. Besides, the doctor is right here. Why fear being poisoned to death? The villagers followed suit. However, the household that lent tools to Li Yun became hesitant. Li Yun smiled and said, "They'll just demonstrate the tools are yours. Note if anyone gets bitten by a snake, tell me, and it'll help detoxify." That villager took the bamboo basket and fire tongs and happily went to catch snakes. Old Wang was also tempted and asked, "Do you want dead ones?" "Yes, but the price will be reduced by 20%. Try to keep them in good condition." "Got it." Old Wang went over, picked up a stick, and started beating snakes. After all, dead ones only cost 20% less. The commotion soon attracted other constables and villagers. Upon hearing the news, even the sick picked up sticks and joined. Li Yun stood at the rear calmly drinking tea, occasionally detoxifying the unlucky ones bitten by snakes. Many hands make light work. Soon the snake tide was completely caught, and any snakes trying to flee were chased down and captured by the villagers. The supposed siege of 10,000 snakes. No, it was a delivery service. The villagers were all beaming, bringing dead or alive snakes to Li Yun for payment. Li Yun also said to several constables, "I'd trouble you brothers to help keep count. Also, village chief, you record as well, or later you'll distribute based on the records of how many each household caught." All right. The villagers of Shijiakan were as happy as if it were New Year. They all gathered around Li Yun, watching him, the village chief, and the constable, count the snakes. Li Yun counted and processed the snakes while recruiting many villagers to help with the preparation, creating a bustling scene throughout Shijiakan. Outside the village, Shi Hong's face turned livid with rage. She watched with her own eyes as tens of thousands of snakes were captured, skinned, and disemboweled by that despicable pain. So much pain. Beside her, Old Huang felt a chill in his heart. Was this the terror of humans? When they are ruthless, they are truly frightening. Seeing that Shi Hong was about to charge, and he quickly stopped her, saying, "Fellow Taoist, don't be impulsive. Although they were demons, they were only low-level minor demons. If they charged in broad daylight, those people would tear them apart alive. After all, our cultivation is shallow. If we charge up, we might be harmed by these mortals." "How is that possible? With a single demonic wind, I could make them all collapse." Shi Hong was clearly confident. Old Huang was momentarily speechless. He knew that Li Yun was protected by merit, and Shi Hong's demonic wind would probably be just a gentle breeze. But he didn't want to reveal that, so he had to say, "In broad daylight with so many villagers, if we act directly, we will surely invite great calamity. Better wait until nightfall. Moreover, we can find some more allies, and we will surely avenge your clan." Under Old Huang's persuasion, Shi Hong suppressed her anger. They agreed that Shi Hong would wait here, while Old Huang went to invite more friends to help. Old Huang was quite popular among the local minor demons, and calling a few helpers should not be difficult. Meanwhile, Li Yun had been busy from morning till night. There were many species of venomous snakes here, and as he processed them, knowledge naturally emerged in Li Yun's mind. Which part of which snake was best for medicine and what medicines it could supply. Some were used for wine, some for antidotes, some for skincare ointments. The gallbladder could make insect repellent potions, and the venom of poisonous snakes could also be used to refine poison pills or antidote pills. Unfortunately, the serum was not convenient to preserve, so Li Yun did not extract it. With tens of thousands of snakes, Li Yun certainly couldn't handle them alone, so he taught the villagers. Many hands make light work. Under the lure of money, the villagers and the constables became assembly line workers. They all forgot that initially they had come to deal with a plague. How did they end up getting rich? According to the final tally, including materials and wages, Li Yun had to pay 3,000 silver taels. When distributed among the more than 50 households of Shijiakan, each family got at least dozens of taels of income. They couldn't earn that much in 3 to 5 years, yet by catching and processing snakes they made it in a single day. Although Li Yun did not pay immediately, his previous rescue of the villagers had earned him enough trust. However, after all the work, it was already dark. Li Yun and the constables, carrying bamboo baskets on their backs, began to head back to the city. Lu Laolu then remembered the main issue and said, "Did we forget? We haven't investigated who poisoned the villagers. Do we even need to investigate?" "It must be." Old Wang replied halfway, but dared not continue. Saying this at night, the trees visible to the eye seemed to turn into demons and monsters. There are no fools in this world. Unexplained snake venom poisoned the villagers, and inexplicably a snake tide appeared. When things are abnormal, there must be a demon. When they were catching snakes, their minds were full of money. Now that the money was tallied, they began to feel scared. It is said that snakes hold the deepest grudges. People are always a little afraid of demons and monsters. Li Yun said calmly, don't be afraid, it's not a big problem. The world now is the realm of humans. If you feel anxious, go worship at the temple." The constables were speechless. "Your reassurance is totally ineffective. Isn't this just admitting that there must be demons causing trouble?" Especially Lu Lalio, who looked strange. "Yesterday you said not to speculate without evidence, and today you admit it." Lu Laolu said weakly, "Divine Doctor Li, the folk tales say you can snatch souls from the king of hell. Here at the first dose, Li, the 10 needles. Divine Doctor Li, just tell us frankly, do you have some special skills?" Li Yun was speechless. "I'm actually not that arrogant. I just have some means of self-defense." Faced with the expectant gazes of everyone, Li Yun could only speak frankly. "I am just an ordinary doctor, but as the saying goes, if you do not do anything wrong, you need not fear the knocking of ghosts at your door." Moreover, he has the virtue of merit to protect him. Over the years, although he has spent the merits he earned to enhance his own abilities, all the merits he has accumulated can serve as a... After all, he had not encountered any monsters or evil spirits in his life over these years. Strange occurrences did happen, but as long as Li Yun did not fear them, nothing would come. As soon as Li Yun finished speaking, a sudden gust of eerie wind blew through the forest, rustling the leaves. Lu Laolu instantly became tense, drawing out his large knife and standing guard cautiously. In the woods, a large black snake was slowly slithering. It was Shihong. Originally, she had intended to strike in her human form. But for some unknown reason, when she was about to act, she involuntarily reverted to her original form. Though her original body was powerful, it could not cast spells. Regardless, she had to charge in. Brother Huang had gone out to call for help and had not yet returned. She certainly did not want to let those humans who had slaughtered her kin escape. Their bamboo baskets were filled with snakes and various snake parts. Watching Li Yun and the others skillfully dismembering them made Shihong's heart bleed. Seeing them about to leave, Shihong was naturally unwilling. Even without the ability to cast spells, she would fight to the end. Carrying the gusts of demonic wind, Shihong fiercely charged in with Li Yun as her first target. It was this damned doctor who incited those villagers to attack the snake group, leading to such a disastrous calamity. Shihong loathed Li Yun the most. Shihong adjusted her position, found the right moment, and sprang forward, darting straight towards Li Yun. But the instant she lunged, her head felt as if it had been pricked by needles, causing her to momentarily lose focus. Originally, she had intended to bite Li Yun fiercely, but now she found herself unable to do so. From Li Yun and the others' perspective, a large snake suddenly sprang out, aiming to it. "Be careful!" The crowd of constables scattered in panic, mainly because the snake was too terrifying, approximately 5 or 6 meters long, its body completely dark, making it hard. Li Yun, however, was completely unfazed. As the snake lunged at him, he took a small step back, effortlessly dodging the strike, then swiftly seized the snake's vital spot and pressed it down to the ground, following it up with a punch to its head. The snake's skull shattered instantly, blood oozing from its 7 orifices, and it flailed on the ground for a few moments before dying on the spot. Merit 1600. Hey, killing this thing actually grants merit. Li Yun was momentarily stunned. He could only earn a few points of merit for saving a life. The constables were even more dumbfounded. A snake of such size had launched a surprise attack from the darkness, yet Li Yun had dodged it with the ease of a stroll in the garden, then killed the snake with a single punch. Dr. Li, you still claim to be just an ordinary physician. I travel around practicing medicine and have some self-defense skills, which is quite reasonable, isn't it? Lu Laoyo. I believe you. Looking at the unusually large snake lying on the ground, the silence among the constables was deafening. All right, let's hurry home. I still have to go to my sister's house for dinner tonight. If I delay, I'll get scolded again. Upon hearing this, the constables couldn't help but envision the face of the number 1 tigress of Yuhang, and they dared not continue the discussion. Someone volunteered to help Li Yun carry the large snake he had just killed, hastening back to the city. Everyone overlooked the fleeting figure of a white fox in the bushes. Shortly after the crowd left, Elder Huang and a group of fierce-looking men arrived at the scene. Elder Huang sniffed the air and soon caught the scent of Shihong, noticing a few drops of fresh blood on the ground. Shihong's blood was here, but her whereabouts were unknown, as she was most likely in grave danger. Lord Wolf General, my friend, may have met with misfortune. Elder Huang cried out sorrowfully. Among the sturdy men, the one at the forefront coldly reprimanded, I am not interested in these matters. Where is the person protected by merit? This group of individuals were all wolf demons. Wolves, before becoming demons, already possessed formidable combat strength. A pack of wolves posed a lethal threat to anyone in the wild, and after transforming into demons, they were naturally even more terrifying. Elder Huang had no connection with such powerful beings. He only had a minor acquaintance with a small wolf and had been introduced to the wolf general through it. To enlist the help of such strong beings, one naturally had to offer something of value. In desperation, Elder Huang revealed Li Yun's peculiarities, awakening the greed within the wolf general. A good person with merit to protect them is not so easily killed, but if they can consume his blood and flesh, it would be a great tonic. As for the karmic retribution that might ensue, the demon race was not afraid of it. Wealth and honor come from danger. However, they had arrived too late. Li Yun and the others had already returned to the city. Elder Huang quickly said, I know where that doctor lives. He is from Yuhang County, residing in Whooping Alley. The weasel could move about the town much more easily, and gathering information was not difficult. The wolf general was somewhat intrigued. However, if they wanted to enter the city, only he could go. His subordinates had not fully transformed. Although they had become human, they still retained some wolf characteristics, making them recognizable on the streets. Even if they disguised themselves as their original forms, it would still instill fear in people. Very well, you lead the way, and I will accompany you. Consuming this good person's flesh will allow me to ascend to the rank of a demon king. At that point, I will be the sole king of this Jiangnan region. The wolf general had quite an ambition. Originally a demon general, like him, should not harbor such grandiose dreams. However, not long ago, the 7 demon kings of Jiangnan engaged in a fierce battle with an outsider demon king, leading to the demise of many and leaving none unscathed. Now was a prime opportunity for him to rise. Such a chance could not be missed. Seeing the wolf general agree, Elder Huang also felt delighted. What of Li Yun's merit protection? It could merely fend off minor demons, who facing true power would certainly lead to disaster. The wolf general was quite cunning. He instructed his subordinates to wait outside the city. If they heard his wolf howl, they could respond in time. Thus the weasel led the dire wolf into the city. Li Yun and the others hurried back home, having already missed dinner time. He first returned home and heard from Aunt Wu that Bai Wanjun had gone to his sister's house first, so he hurried over. His sister's house was right next door, just a couple of steps away. When Li Yun arrived, they had not yet eaten. Li Lin and Bai Wanjun were chatting and laughing, creating a very harmonious. But as soon as Li Yun entered, Li Lin's expression turned stern as she scolded. You little rascal, on your wedding night you left the bride unattended at home, and now you come back so late. I see you must be itching for a beating. I had no choice, lives were at stake, and I couldn't just ignore it. Oh, you're so remarkable, so great, so divine. How would the world survive without you, the healer? This familiar sarcastic banter began again. Li Yun pretended not to hear, and seeing that Aunt Wu was not around, he hurriedly called out, Brother-in-law, brother-in-law. It's time to eat. The dishes on the table were all covered with lids, clearly indicating that they had not eaten yet, and had been waiting. Coming. A rough voice belonging to Wu Xiu also came from the inner room. He was home, but had left space for Li Lin and Bai Wanjun to talk about women's private matters. You only know to call your brother-in-law. If it weren't to save face for Wanjun, I would have taught you a lesson, Li Lin said, then called a household servant to reheat the food. By the way, last night, you were busy saving someone. Oh, what took you so long today? At this moment, Wu Xiu also walked out. Hearing Li Lin's words without thinking much, he directly replied, Today there was an outbreak of plague in Shijiao village, so I sent my younger brother over. Li Lin's face immediately darkened upon hearing this, and she began to look around. Wu Xiu, puzzled, asked, What are you looking for, my dear? I can help you find it. But Li Lin spotted a vine and swiftly picked it up. Wu Xiu was still confused when Li Yun had already anticipated the move and hidden behind Wu Xiu. What's going on here? Wu Xiu felt something was amiss. His wife was genuinely furious. Swish. The sound of the vines slicing through the air came, and Li Yun perfectly dodged, landing a hard strike on Wu Xiu's behind. Stop dodging, stop dodging. Ouch, ouch. Li Yun dodged like a king around a pillar, and Wu Xiu cried out in anguish as he was indeed the pillar. Stop hitting, stop hitting. The house turned into chaos in an instant, and Bai Wanjun couldn't help but cover her mouth and giggle upon witnessing the scene. Is this what it's like to be a family together? Indeed, it was quite lively. After several minutes, Li Lin finally calmed down. But there was Li Yun unscathed, while Wu Xiu had a face full of grievances, and Li Lin, who had beaten him, looked like she was. Seeing this, Wu Xiu hurried over to comfort his wife. Although he had just endured an inexplicable beating, he was a loving husband. My dear, what happened? Li Lin did not explain. Li Yun weakly said, our father died of a plague back then, so my sister said that if there was an outbreak, I was not allowed to practice. In the face of a plague, medical personnel are always on the front lines. A frequent contact with the sick inevitably leads to danger. There's always a risk of death when dealing with illness. Wu Xiu knew how Li Yun's father had died back then, but was unaware of the shadow in Li Lin's heart. After all, Li's father was considered a hero and was praised by many. As his daughter, Li Lin could not say her father was wrong. She could only scold Li Yun not to repeat the same mistakes. If he were to die, he would be a hero, but what about the wife and children he left behind? You've grown up and have your own thoughts. My words seem to have no effect anymore. Li Lin originally thought Li Yun had forgotten, but unexpectedly he remembered, and simply was unwilling to listen. Li Yun helplessly said, there is no plague in Shujia village, they have been poisoned. Li Lin. Wu Xiu. Why didn't you say this earlier? You made me take a beating for nothing. After the commotion subsided, the meal was just heated and brought to the table. It all seemed like mere pre-dinner warm-up, with only the brother-in-law bearing the brunt of the chaos. Li Lin swiftly transformed from a formidable tigress into a gentle elder sister, asking Bai Wanjun, did I frighten you? Not at all. Bai Wanjun replied softly. Li Lin sighed and said, you're just too gentle. From now on, if you ever feel wrong, tell me. If that scoundrel dares upset you, will deal with him. Bai Wanjun thought silently, please don't deal with him. The poor brother-in-law has suffered enough. At the table, Li Lin fervently imparted lessons on managing a husband, a clear act of making an example of someone. Li Yin lowered his voice and said to Wu Xiu, brother-in-law, you've endured much over the years. Wu Xiu smiled faintly and replied, she's mainly scolding you. Your sister may seem fierce in front of you, but in private, she's very gentle. Otherwise would I indulge her? Li Yin thought perhaps this is a man's final stubbornness. Do I not know how fierce my sister is? Well, as long as he's happy. Li Yun silently ate his meal, only responding when his sister interacted with him. After finishing, since it was getting late, he exchanged a few words and took Bai Wanjun home. After all, they lived next door, so they could visit any time. How much of sister's art of husband taming did you learn? Li Yun asked, holding Bai Wanjun's hand. Bai Wanjun smiled and said, are you afraid I might learn it? Not at all. Li Yun tightened his grip on her hand and said, there's nothing wrong with a girl being fierce that keeps others from bullying her. Of course I would never bring myself to hurt you. I also think you're wonderful. They were lost in each other's eyes, their affection boundless. Little Fox, observing from the shadows, couldn't help but mock Li Lin's so-called fierceness. After all that thrashing, not a single scratch. It was all just a bluff. Her queen, when truly angered, could split a person in half with a single slap. Completely shattered. Meanwhile, Li Yun and Bai Wanjun had returned home. Entering the room, Li Yun said, I've been too busy these past 2 days. There are many things I haven't given you yet. He took a small box from the cabinet and placed it before Bai Wanjun. This holds all our family's assets. The deed to the Li family medical hall, the deed to this house. Also, I've purchased land in the southern, northern, and eastern districts, as well as a few farms outside the city. It's wise to store grain for lean times. If disaster or unrest strikes, we'll have a refuge. Beneath the jujube tree in our yard, I've buried 5,000 taels of gold as emergency savings. Here are several tens of thousands in silver notes, our visible reserve. Spend as you wish, I can always earn more. Bai Wanjun had little concept of such wealth and no interest in money. But her husband's willingness to entrust everything to her showed his trust. Rest assured, he'll manage our household well. No need, just spend freely. I can easily earn enough to cover your extravagance. Eat whatever you want, buy whatever you like, and even hire servants to attend to you. Li Yun wasn't fond of luxury, nor was he stingy. Money was meant to be spent, but there was no need for ostentation. Wouldn't that make me seem useless? How about I learn medicine from you? Wherever you go, we'll follow. Is that all right? Bai Wanjun had no desire to idle at home. She only wanted to be with Li Yun every moment. That's not a bad idea. Li Yun didn't mind Bai Wanjun appearing in public, though he secretly wished to keep his beautiful wife hidden away. But Bai Wanjun was human too, and without something to do she would grow bored. Little Fox, guarding from outside, shed tears of envy. So marrying a human came with such benefits. Room and board, just lazing at home. That was all time for cultivation. No need to forage for food or guard against enemies like in the wild. Your Majesty, you're so foolish. Little Fox was immensely envious. She wished she were the one married. She would pamper him daily, and once he left she'd feast on meat. With Li Yun's wealth, she could have 10 chickens a day, right? At this thought, her envious tears flowed from her mouth. After days of wandering, she hadn't even gotten a scrap of leftovers. Maybe she should defect to Li Yun's side. That wouldn't be betraying her queen, would it? But few humans kept foxes as pets, and dogs were more common. Perhaps she could disguise herself. First learn to bark. Woof. What was that sound? Inside, Li Yun and Bai Wanjun were about to retire after washing up, and he was startled by the strange noise. Bai Wanjun's expression stiffened. Perhaps a fox's call. So that's how foxes sound. Li Yun didn't dwell on why a fox would be in the city. With a beauty in his arms, he only thought of starting a family. It wasn't about wanting children, but the process itself. After marriage, he understood what it meant to be sweet as honey. Little Fox's strange call also caught the attention of the wolf general and old man Huang. The wolf general frowned, rubbing his throat. Hearing another creature howl, he felt an urge to join in. But they had agreed not to make noise lest their subordinates swarm into the city and cause a commotion. Almost there. Yes, just ahead. Li Yun's residence was easy to find. As soon as they entered the Li family courtyard, old man Huang transformed into his true form, a sleek, lustrous weasel that looked anything but ordinary. The wolf general remained in human form. Nothing special, he muttered. Little Fox, perched on the eaves, perked up at their arrival. Demons attacking. How my chance to shine. She leaped down into the courtyard. Halt. The wolf general saw the fox in her true form and recognized her as a demon, but dismissed her. A mere fox spirit dares block my path. Scram. Little Fox was enraged. Since serving by Wanjuan, no demon in the northeastern mountains had dared speak to her so rudely. Didn't they know the meaning of borrowing power from the tiger? You seek death. Her body swelled tenfold, manifesting a giant fox apparition. Her demon general aura surpassed the wolf general's. He grew cautious, but wasn't afraid. His cultivation was slightly weaker, but he was a wolf. What did he have to fear from a fox spirit? It seems this man is indeed extraordinary to have a demon general-level fox as a secret guard. The wolf general's heart burned with desire. The enemy had only one demon general, while he had many subordinates. Overwhelming numbers gave him the advantage. With that thought, he raised his head to howl, but before he could open his mouth, Little Fox slapped him hard across the face. Fight if you want, but stop that howling. She despised wolves for always letting out a howl. Disturbing her queen would earn him a slap, head, remember. You. Slapped by a fox, the wolf general grew even angrier. Howl, stop howling. Little Fox delivered several more slaps, choking off his cries and leaving him stunned. Where did this ferocious fox spirit come from? Her fighting style was bizarre. Foxes were known for agility and strong spiritual power, typically using illusions in battle. Yes, illusions. It was all fake. How could a proud wolf demon general be so humiliated by a fox? Despite the slaps, he defiantly raised his head. He would summon his subordinates to destroy this fox spirit. But before he could call out, a terrifying pressure descended upon him. A demon king. Bai Wanjun appeared not in her physical form, but through astral projection. She coldly glanced at the wolf general and delivered a mighty slap. Howling, so annoying. With that slap, the wolf general's head burst like a watermelon. Bai Wanjun's spirit swiftly returned to her body. As her soul re-entered, she shuddered involuntarily, a natural reflex. Li Yun, with a hint of pride, said, "My dear, your reaction is adorable." Bai Wanjun was puzzled, but as long as Li Yun was happy, it didn't matter. Besides, the commotion outside had been covered up. Little Fox quickly cleaned up, dragging the massive wolf corpse to a corner. Hey, where did that yellow-haired rat go? She was surprised the rat was on her menu and looked delicious. But the rat was cunning and had vanished. Old man Huang had indeed fled early, hiding in the distance to watch when he saw Little Fox. The presence of a demon general guarding the target made old man Huang despair of ever tasting Li Yun's flesh. If the wolf general won, he might get a sip of soup. As a rat, his timidity made him cautious. He lurked in the shadows, waiting for the outcome. If the wolf lost, head flee. If he won, head follow for scraps. Then a terrifying scene unfolded. Old man Huang, with his low cultivation, couldn't see Bai Wanjun's spirit, only the wolf general's head exploding. It was horrifying enough to scare a rat. This place is dangerous. I must flee. Old man Huang scurried away, his courage shattered, no longer coveting Li Yun. Those protected by karma were truly not to be trifled with. All who tried suffered misfortune. But he caught the scent of his fellow Taoist Shihong. Devouring Shihong's flesh would boost his cultivation. With that thought, he headed straight for the Li family medical hall. If he couldn't eat the saint's flesh, demon meat would do. He dared not touch the wolf demon, but Shihong's remains should be unguarded. True to his guest, the medical hall was quiet at night. Old man Huang, still in weasel form, slipped inside. To his surprise, the door was unlocked. He entered easily, finding the hall filled with baskets of snake materials. This reminded him of his descendants' tragic fate. Hatred flashed in his eyes as he looked at Shihong's corpse. Farewell, fellow Taoist Shi. I will avenge you one day. Old man Huang gleefully crawled toward Shihong's body. Suddenly he heard a snap. A trap triggered, and felt a sharp pain in his waist. A rat trap. He had been so fixated on Shihong's flesh that he overlooked the trap. But could a mere rat trap harm him? Old man Huang struggled to break free, but the trap glowed with golden light, suppressing his demonic power and preventing him from transforming into human form. A rat trap turned into a tool of karma. Old man Huang's eyes filled with disbelief as he resigned to his fate. Gradually his breathing grew labored and his consciousness faded. The next day, when Li Yun brought Bai Wanjun to the medical hall, they found a plump weasel caught in the trap. Wow, I actually caught a rat. Li Yun had brought these items back yesterday, but hadn't had time to process them, leaving them in the hall. Fearing rats might eat the valuable materials he had bought, he set a few simple traps. To his surprise, he had a catch in the morning. The weasel's body was stiff. Li Yun picked it up and tossed it aside. Dear, today you can learn to process medicinal herbs with me. There's plenty here for you to study and practice. Yesterday, Li Yun had sorted the herbs. Today, he needed to further process them. Fresh herbs have their uses, but for long-term storage there are methods of preparation. I also have formulas to make finished medicines. You can record them. Seeing the snakes, Li Yun knew how to maximize their value. This was the effect of the art of pharmacology. It was the most crucial skill in the medical arts. A venomous snake was a treasure trove of valuable parts. Li Yun added some supplementary ingredients and after a series of operations turned the materials into various finished medicines. Mosquito repellent potion, skin smoothing, essential oil, aphrodisiac, medicinal wine, detoxifying pills. With the aid of his pharmaceutical skills, Li Yun maximized the utility of the materials. Alright, have you memorized the formulas? Li Yun asked Bai Wanjun. Since she was interested in learning medicine, Li Yun naturally intended to teach her properly. Bai Wanjun, after all, was not blessed with a cheat-like advantage. Starting with pharmacology would be easier. Even if she could never master medicine, she could at least become an assistant who pounded herbs. I've memorized them all, Bai Wanjun replied. Let me see, Li Yun said, taking the paper slip from her hand. It was completely blank. This? I've committed it all to memory, Bai Wanjun said earnestly. She wasn't lying. Though Li Yun's movements were swift, she only needed a single glance to replicate his every action and the exact proportion of ingredients. A good memory is not as reliable as a worn-out pen. What you remember today might be forgotten tomorrow. Besides, the formulas we record can be passed on to others. As he spoke, Li Yun casually jotted down the methods of pill refinement and the ratios of medicinal herbs on the paper. Teaching his own wife, Li Yun maintained a gentle demeanor. Bai Wanjun nodded, indicating she had taken note. These formulas, each one is worth a fortune. Keep them safe. All these can be sold for money. Bai Wanjun asked with a hint of naivety. Li Yun smiled. The finished medicines are like golden eggs, and these formulas are the goose that lays them. For an ordinary family, even a single formula is enough to be passed down through generations. Husband, you're amazing. Bai Wanjun looked at Li Yun with adoration. Under her praise, Li Yun couldn't help but lose himself in pride, frantically demonstrating his alchemical prowess. Just as the couple was enjoying their harmonious time together, a clear voice rang out from the main hall. Boundless blessings, is Dr. Li here? Bai Wanjun. Someone else was interrupting her time with her husband again. How annoying. With resentment in her heart, Bai Wanjun watched as Li Yun set down his work. Keep an eye on the fire here. They'll go see who it is. Oh, Li Yun arrived at the main hall to find a female Taoist. She appeared to be about 17 or 18, clad in a brown robe with clear eyes that held a hint of worldly innocence and even a trace of timidity. Are you Dr. Li? The female Taoist looked at Li Yun, clearly puzzled. It was indeed rare for someone as young as Li Yun to have become a renowned physician. It's me. Zhang Lingxiu of Wudong greets Dr. Li. Zhang Lingxiu performed a Taoist salute, and Li Yun quickly responded, no need for formalities. May I ask what brings you here, Reverend? Zhang Lingxiu glanced at the weasel corpse in the corner of the hall and the large snake in the basket, then paused before speaking. I was commissioned by Squire Feng to exorcise evil and pray for blessings, but it seems the evil entity is right here. But I wonder, as a mere mortal, how could you possibly slay such a demon? Or is there a powerful expert by your side, Doctor? Could you introduce me? Li Yun was taken aback. He could accept that the giant snake was a demon. After all, such a huge venomous snake was rare. But the weasel was merely a bit robust. Reverend, you might be mistaken. That weasel was killed by my mousetrap, though it shouldn't be any demon. And that venomous snake, I killed it with my own hands. Zhang Lingxiu. A mousetrap killed a weasel demon. What kind of joke was that? But her good upbringing prevented her from uttering profanity. After a moment of silence, she said, may I see this so-called mousetrap you mentioned? Perhaps a master had given him some kind of magical artifact. Here. Li Yun handed the mousetrap to Zhang Lingxiu without hesitation. She examined it thoroughly, but found nothing remarkable. No runes, no curse marks. It was indeed just an ordinary trap. She then inspected the wound on the weasel's body. There was only a single injury. Something's off. Zhang Lingxiu sniffed and exclaimed in shock. 2 powerful demon auras. Recently it has come into contact with at least 2 demon generals. Therefore it's likely that its life force was destroyed by the power of a greater demon, and then it coincidentally ended up in your mousetrap. That must be the truth. Her eyes sparkled with the light of intelligence. Li Yun, who was unaware of the real situation, also found her impressive. She could deduce so much merely from the corpse. Truly a master. So this weasel really was a demon. Of course, Zhang Lingxiu said gravely. What's more terrifying is that it's dead. It bore the auras of 2 great demons, and then died. Very likely a case of silencing a witness. Zhang Lingxiu shuddered at the thought. Some great demon must be brewing a conspiracy. But my cultivation is still too weak to deal with demon generals. They'll have to send a message. With that, Zhang Lingxiu picked up the weasel and said to Li Yun, Dr. Li, please don't spread this news for now to avoid causing panic. Li Yun, I'm already panicking. It started with a dead big rat at home, and now after your analysis, it seems like Yuhang City is about to face a terrifying attack. Who can handle that? Could it be that this is all a misunderstanding? My perception is never wrong. 2 great demons gathering together. It's very likely that a demon king is active in Yuhang City. Only a demon king can command great demons. How did the situation escalate? He didn't really understand, but it sounded serious. Li Yun didn't know if his martial arts at the 99th level could defeat a demon king. In any case, he had no intention of fleeing. Protected by his merit, staying in the city gave him nothing to fear. I understand. I won't spread it around carelessly. Seeing Li Yun agree, Zhang Lingxiu bowed and hurried away. Li Yun sighed. Things seem to be unsettled lately. With this thought, Li Yun quickly went to the backyard, took Bai Wanjun's hand, and said, Wanjun, be careful lately. Try not to leave my side. Bai Wanjun smiled shyly and gently replying, All right, husband. Has something happened? In truth, she had overheard everything when Li Yun was speaking with Zhang Lingxiu in the front hall. Sometimes being a demon king can be truly helpless, especially when encountering someone as clever as Zhang Lingxiu. Her perception of the 2 great demon auras was correct. One was Little Fox, and the other was the Wolf General. Both were at the demon general level. But there was no conspiracy or silencing. That weasel really was killed by a mousetrap. Ridiculous. And what made Bai Wanwan even more speechless was that despite a string of erroneous premises, Zhang Lingxiu's final conclusion was correct. Yuhang City truly harbored a demon king. If it were only Zhang Lingxiu, the problem would be easy to solve, just a little Taoist. But this young Taoist from a prestigious sect would call for backup at the drop of a hat. Though she already knew the whole story, Bai Wanjun still made Li Yun recount it. Only then did it seem reasonable. Li Yun deliberated for a moment, omitting the existence of the demon, and said to Bai Wanjun, I heard there are bandits in the city, extremely vicious. You must be careful not to go alone. Don't worry, husband. Have you forgotten I'm a hunter's daughter? I have some skills too. She waved her small fist as she spoke. Li Yun chuckled. Forget those kitten punches. A thug would only find you adorable and perhaps become even more excited. Bai Wanjun was speechless. She couldn't exactly explain how many demon kings she had slain with her kitty fists. In Li Yun's eyes, she was just a fragile woman. Meanwhile, Zhang Lingxiu left the clinic and quickly wrote a spirit message. Demon king spotted in Yuhang, come quickly. She skipped her reasoning and wrote only the conclusion. She transmitted the spirit message at top speed. It sped all the way to Wudong Mountain, arriving at Xinyan Peak. Chief Zhang Biyu was teaching the disciples to practice boxing. The founder of Wudong had attained the Tao through martial arts, venerating the true martial emperor. While pursuing cultivation, they also upheld martial arts as a means to protect the Tao. Through dual cultivation of Tao and martial arts, Wudong held a significant position among the mystic schools. Zhang Biyu, as one of the chiefs, possessed profound cultivation. But upon receiving that spirit message, her expression changed. She immediately dismissed the disciples and hurried to the true martial hall, summoning the sect leader and other chiefs. Xiu'er reports a demon king in Yuhang. What do you think, fellow brothers? Zhang Biyu's face was etched with anxiety. Song Qixiao, chief of Redleaf Peak, reassured her, Sister Biyu, don't panic. Since disciple Xiu'er could still send a message, she should be safe. Indeed. I also heard news recently. Some fellow cultivators claim to have seen a demon king leaving the mountains and then vanishing. At the time, I thought they were just being paranoid since nothing had happened for months. Sect leader Chen Shuesong added gravely. In this peaceful era, humans and demons kept apart, like well water and river water. Though minor monsters occasionally caused trouble, powerful demon kings rarely ventured into the mortal world. But those not of our kind are bound to have different hearts. At the level of a demon king, they would not act without cause. When they did, it would surely be for something monumental. Hearing no disturbance for months, Chen Shuesong had almost let it go, only to receive news from Yuhang now. Sister Biyu, Xiu'er is your disciple, so you'll naturally want to go in person. Head there to investigate first, well follow soon, and provide covert support. If there truly is a demon causing havoc, we will do our utmost to stop it and protect Yuhang. Understood. After briefing, everyone, Zhang Biyu took her Dharma sword and hurried down the mountain. A demon king's appearance was urgent as she had to reach Yuhang at full speed. Meanwhile, in Yuhang City, Bai Wanjun's face darkened as she gazed at the trembling little fox. I told you to stop someone, and you couldn't even do that. What use are you? Bai Wanjun was furious. After eavesdropping on Li Yun and Zhang Lingxia's conversation, she had ordered Little Fox to tell her, prevent her from sending for help, and ideally alter her memory. If that failed, she would have to silence her. Bai Wanjun, now living as a human, did not wish to cause unnecessary bloodshed. But if anyone tried to disturb her peaceful life, she would not hesitate. Yet Little Fox couldn't even handle this small task. Last night's failure to stop the Wolf General was excusable. His cultivation was high, and despite winning, she couldn't prevent him from making a sound. But how could she fail to handle a knob? Little Fox, realizing her master was angry, quickly explained, I failed and I deserve punishment, but I don't know why my spell didn't work. After Zhang Lingxiu left, she cast a charm spell on her which should have easily ensnared someone of such low cultivation. But her demonic art failed completely, allowing Zhang Lingxiu to send the spirit message. She must have a protective artifact. Bai Wanjun believed Little Fox's earnest words, but still fumed inwardly. I didn't expect Wudong cultivators to be so wealthy. Even a young disciple out on training carries a protective treasure. Oh well, since the message has already been sent, you'll need to lie low for now. Don't cause me trouble. My queen. Little Fox looked pitiful. Rest assured, if I'm caught, I won't implicate you. Her pitiful state softened Bai Wanjun's heart. You don't need to be too afraid. The fox I raised is not someone just anyone can bully. Thank you, my queen. Little Fox beamed. All right, go follow my husband. He may have some skill, but he can only handle minor monsters. Yes, my queen. Little Fox left, relieved, having kept her job for another day. But perhaps too excited, she rushed out, without looking, and bumped straight into Li Yun. Hey, what a beautiful fox dog. Little Fox was stunned. Fox is fox, dog is dog. What the heck is a fox dog? She wanted to bolt, but dared not show shocking speed before Li Yun, and was cornered in the courtyard. My queen, save me. She whimpered, forcing Bai Wanjun to come to the rescue. So much for not implicating her queen. Husband, this fox is one I saved in the mountains before. Somehow she found me here. Don't hurt her. She had heard Little Fox recount her husband's deeds, gentle with people, but utterly merciless when dealing with animals. She feared he might skin Little Fox for a scarf. Maybe she came to repay a kindness. I've heard foxes are spiritual. Li Yun had no intention of harming Little Fox. He had dispatched the snakes swiftly because they showed aggression. Wait, this world had monsters. You're here to repay a debt, right? Then you'll have to sit down first. If you're male, I won't allow such repayment. Hearing this, Bai Wanjun's lips curled slightly. Possessiveness. Her husband was truly petty. Little Fox, seeing Li Yun approach, dared not resist, and obediently lay down. Li Yun tentatively placed his hand on her head. Hey, she's so docile. She lets me pet her, he said delightedly. Bai Wanjun was speechless. Li Yun's petting grew bolder, and he chuckled. You're so good, your fur is so soft. Little Fox looked up inadvertently, and met Bai Wanjun's death glare. Suddenly, Li Yun lifted her up to inspect her. I'm a female. I can rest easy. Little Fox and Bai Wanjun were both speechless. A fox repaying kindness. This was a plotline Li Yun had often encountered in tales. If it were a male fox seeking Bai Wanjun's gratitude, Li Yun would find it somewhat unsettling. A female fox, however, was perfectly fine. Yet at this moment, tears welled in the little fox's eyes. Sob, sob, sob. The master was far too wicked to do such a thing to her right before the great king. How could she ever face the great king again? Meeting Bai Wanjun's deathly glare, the little fox felt she might not survive the night. Wanjun, this fox seems quite docile. How about we keep her? Li Yun adored small, fluffy creatures, especially those that were affectionate and pleasing to the eye. When the little fox heard his words, her ears perked up. The master truly intended to keep her. Then being touched a few times wasn't such a loss. If my husband wishes to keep her, then so be it. Bai Wanjun ultimately did not stop Li Yun, as she only glared fiercely at the little fox, making her feel as though needles pricked her back, trembling in fear. Let's give her a name first. Li Yun stroked the little fox's head, observing her pure white fur. Instinctively, he thought of calling her Little White. But his wife's surname was Bai White, so naming a pet Little White seemed inappropriate. What name could I use that avoids white, yet still conveys whiteness? After a moment's thought, Li Yun said, I'll call you Little Snow. The little fox. Having been with the great king for so long, a sudden name change left her disoriented, but she dared not object. She could only flick her tail. She began to interact with Li Yun again, and naturally, he grew even fonder of her. Come, let me give you a bath first. Bai Wanjun. How could he be going too far? Her gentle and virtuous expression showed signs of cracking. Husband. Isn't this inappropriate? What if she scratches or bites you? That would be bad. Don't worry, you'll be fine. My reflexes are quick. Li Yun completely missed Bai Wanjun's jealousy. After all, it was just a little fox. Besides, he wasn't busy at the moment, perfect time to find something to do. Li Yun had old Ma heat some water, and personally, mixed a medicinal solution to repel insects. Under normal circumstances, humans should avoid close contact with wild animals, as they can carry viruses and bacteria that could cause widespread illness. However, Li Yun used the Kai observation technique to examine her and found her to be an exceptionally healthy little fox. So a simple bath and pest treatment would suffice. The herb-infused bath Li Yun personally prepared was naturally of the highest quality. After the wash, the little fox's fur became fluffy and smelled fragrant. But the little fox wore a look of utter despair, particularly when Bai Wanjun silently watched as Li Yun bathed her. The quieter she was, the more terrifying it became. She likely wouldn't see the sun tomorrow. She must cherish her final moments. That night the little fox knelt trembling before Bai. Great king, I did not seduce the master. Her eyes brimmed with tears, exuding a pitiable and aggrieved air. You're called Little Snow now. The little fox. Ruined, utterly ruined. They always say vixen, but I never imagined you'd have such allure even before taking human form. The little fox remained silent as a cicada in winter. She could almost see Bai Wanjun transforming, bearing a blood-soaked maw and devouring her in one bite. Enough. Being adopted is fine. Now you can appear openly in the courtyard instead of sneaking around. Thank you, great king, for sparing my life. From now on you must never transform back into human form. Bai Wanjun commanded sternly. As long as the little fox remained a fox, no matter what Li Yun did, he wouldn't go too far with her. Rest assured, great king. I swear I will never take human form. After the little fox's repeated assurances, Bai Wanjun finally let her off. Though fierce and jealous, Bai Wanjun was not unreasonable. Despite her displeasure, this truly wasn't the little fox's fault. After all, it was only petting a small pet, as long as she didn't take human form. Li Yun built a doghouse in the courtyard for the little fox, and she moved in most splendidly. I, a mighty demon general, have fallen to living in a doghouse. Sob, sob, sob. And to be so casually fondled by the master. From Bai Wanjun's and Li Yun's perspectives, he had merely bathed a pet, but in the little fox's eyes, she had been wantonly groped. Since childhood, she had received an opportunity and embarked on the path of cultivation alongside Bai Wanjun. Though a beast, she had awakened intelligence and acquired human nature, and thus could not be treated as a mere animal. Furthermore, people said fox spirits were lascivious, but in truth foxes were creatures of loyalty. A little fox must endure. When I cultivate to become a demon king. Gnashing her teeth, the little fox cultivated humiliatingly in the doghouse all night, resolved to rise up in the future. Strive, fight. The next morning, however, she awoke to a rich aroma of meat. Opening her eyes, she saw a dish placed before the doghouse with a chicken in it. Is this for me? She looked up at Li Yun, her eyes full of earnestness. Eat up. I've heard foxes love chicken. I've told old Ma to give you one every meal, as much as you want. Sob, sob, sob. Truly delicious. This really was the life she had dreamed of. Though the little fox possessed magical abilities, she never dared to steal chickens from others, because stealing once would lead to a second time, as steal too often, and one would inevitably be caught. Ordinary people couldn't catch her, but they would naturally report to those who could. For common folk, a single chicken was vital to a family. Li Yun could afford to feed the little fox this way because he owned several estates that raised many poultry and livestock, ensuring he had enough meat. Now that bounty extended to a fox. After feeding the fox, Li Yun took Bai Wanjun to work. Sitting at his office every day brought fixed merit rewards, a habit he had developed. All he had to do was clock in. The rest of the time he could do as he pleased. Still, nothing eventful occurred today. Yuhang Prefecture was relatively peaceful, a small place with a slow pace of life, devoid of life and death crises. Having nothing to do, Li Yun had Bai Wanjun read nearby, while he took some previously tanned materials and crafted a leather collar. Then he took out a small piece of wood and carved a fox figure from it. Handiwork was a skill of his, though it didn't appear on the panel. Soon the nameplate was finished. Li Yun engraved the words Little Snow on it, and beneath them, Lee's Medical Clinic. If the little fox ever got lost, and someone found her, as long as they didn't kill her outright, seeing this tag might earn her some respect. After all, the divine physician had some prestige. Of course, if others chose to disregard it, there was no helping it. Li Yun could only hope for the best. Seeing this, Bai Wanjun remarked jealously, "You really do like that little fox a lot." "Yes, I like all fluffy little animals." "So what's your favorite animal?" "A big ol' tiger, of course." Li Yun was merely engaging in casual conversation, yet Bai Wanjun felt a tremor in her heart. A great tiger. Could it be that he knew something? Was he hinting at me? It was not surprising that Bai Wanjun grew suspicious, for Li Yun had displayed many mysteries she had never witnessed before. "Why, Bai Wanjun asked nervously, "Tigers are so terrifying. Why do you like them?" "Because they look cute." Of course, if a real tiger appeared before me, I would turn and flee without hesitation. Bai Wanjun fell silent. A sudden pang of sorrow. Seeing Li Yun's oblivious expression, she realized he might not be alluding to her, yet she could not help feeling wounded. Still, she understood that the ferocity of tigers was deeply ingrained in people's minds. It was only natural for humans to fear tigers. Husband, if you like them, why would you run upon seeing one? I like them, but I have no desire to be devoured by a tiger. Of course, there should be no tigers around here. Li Yun analyzed simply. This area is mostly plains with few mountains and forests. Tigers are unlikely to appear. That is true. Bai Wanjun murmured in agreement, affirming that no tigers could exist in the vicinity. Yet her heart hung in suspense. Indeed, there were no tigers nearby, but tigers from other lands could wander here. If Li Yun ever discovered this truth, she would be in grave danger. Fortunately, Li Yun did not dwell on it. He simply called the little fox, fitted a collar around its neck, and attached a nameplate to the collar. All right, from now on, be clever when you go out. If someone tries to harm you, run. If you cannot escape, show them this plate. The Li Medical Clinic held some influence, or rather he as the divine physician commanded respect. But if the other party was illiterate, there was no helping it. Now go play. Li Yun patted the fox's head, releasing it with satisfaction. The little fox turned its head and saw Bai Wanjun staring at it once more. Danger, danger, danger. Its mind screamed warnings, but it knew this was unavoidable. Even though it had deliberately refrained from transforming into human form, Li Yun still adored it so, and Bai Wanjun was a jealous creature. Yet for all her jealousy, she was not a tyrannical or unreasonable person. Otherwise the little fox would have met its end last night. Unable to bear the sight of the fox clinging to Li Yun, yet unwilling to eliminate it, Bai Wanjun sent a telepathic message ordering it to go out and gather intelligence. Her main task was to check the results of the spiritual message sent by Zhang Lingxiu. The little fox fell silent. Its silence was deafening. Well could it defy the queen's command. With no choice, the little fox had to venture out. Fortunately, it had trailed Zhang Lingxiu from afar yesterday and knew where she had gone. Currently, Zhang Lingxiu was still at the Feng residence. Heading there directly would suffice. If reinforcements from Wudong had arrived, they would likely be there as well. The little fox crept stealthily along the path and soon reached the Feng family estate. It nimbly scaled the wall, then found a corner to slip into the courtyard. As luck would have it, no sooner had it arrived than a streak of light shot from afar, landing directly within the Feng. It sensed a potent surge of sword aura. This must be a powerful figure from Wudong. The little fox's expression soured. The queen only desired a tranquil life, so it was destined to bear the burden and eliminate risks for her. Though it had failed in its task yesterday, most of the time the little fox was reliable. It traced the direction where the sword light had landed, and soon spotted Zhang Lingxiu alongside a female Taoist in a yellow robe. This female Taoist's aura far surpassed Zhang Lingxiu's. She was Zhang Biyu, who had traveled a great distance. Worried for her disciple's safety, she had pushed herself to fly on her sword, sustaining herself solely on recovery pills. When she found Zhang Lingxiu, the latter was intently examining a weasel corpse and a mousetrap. The reverence evoked by Zhang Biyu's arrival drew Zhang Lingxiu's attention. She turned, and upon seeing her master, leaped up in excitement. Master, why are you here? Did you not say a demon king was lurking in Yuhang? Where is it? Master, let me explain. Zhang Lingxiu calmly recounted her entire reasoning process, presenting the crucial evidence: the weasel corpse and the mousetrap. Clearly this mousetrap is just an ordinary one, but the weasel is a genuine demon, albeit with meager cultivation. She then elaborated on the two distinct demon general auras she had detected and their implications. For a moment Zhang Biyu was drawn into her disciple's reasoning. It seemed quite plausible. A demon king was indeed active in Yuhang. That much was certain. Yet where the demon king hid, and what schemes it harbored, remained unknown. Xiaoer, you have done exceptionally well this time, detecting the anomaly promptly and reporting it decisively. When you return, the sect leader will surely reward you handsomely. Zhang Biyu offered words of encouragement, while the little fox, observing from the shadows, could only cover its face in exasperation. Were all righteous cultivators this talented? Every detail of her reasoning was wrong, yet the conclusion was entirely correct, and it had cost the little fox a scolding. How infuriating! It ground its teeth, longing to pounce and thrash Zhang Lingxiu. Always showing off. Just then Zhang Biyu produced a compass and said, "Leave the rest to me." She chanted an incantation, extracted a wisp of demonic aura from the weasel corpse, and infused it into the demon-tracking compass. The compass began to spin rapidly, then pointed in a specific direction. This compass required a corresponding demonic aura to lock onto its target continuously. Zhang Biyu's plan was to trace the source, first locate the demon general whose aura clung to the weasel, and then uncover the grand scheme of the demon king behind it. Following the compass guidance, Zhang Biyu and Zhang Lingxiu proceeded out of the city. The little fox's expression turned peculiar. Could they be heading toward the wolf general's court? The little fox's fears were soon realized. As their search direction drew closer to where it had disposed of the body, it knew what would happen next. This compass was indeed effective. Would the next demonic aura lead them directly to it? If they traced it back? The little fox shuddered at the thought. Meanwhile, the master and disciple had already begun digging. The compass circled in one spot, indicating the target was underground. Zhang Biu blasted a hole in the ground with her sword, and the smell of blood wafted up. The little fox had not buried the corpse deeply, they unearthed it quickly. When they saw the wolf general's robust body with its head shattered, Zhang Biu's expression grew grave. One clue had been severed. Find the other. Zhang Biu chanted an incantation, channeling another wisp of demonic aura into the compass. The little fox, watching, steeled it. It absolutely could not let them trace the trail. It seemed the only option was to eliminate them here. However, when the little fox's own demonic aura was fed into the compass, the needle spun wildly, never settling on a fixed direction. Why is this happening? No one could see that the collar around the little fox's neck was emitting a peculiar energy. The demon-seeking compass has indeed failed. Zhang Biu's expression was grave. Two powerful demon auras were present, one dead and the other nowhere to be found. The clues were cut off, and no one knew what the demon king behind the schemes was plotting. If only we could know where this wolf demon had been before its death, Zhang Lingxiu said regretfully. Meanwhile, the little fox, who was secretly preparing to strike, let out a sigh. The opponent was a real master from Wudong, and the little fox was uncertain if it could win. The combat power of human cultivators cannot be solely measured by their cultivation level. If they possess powerful magical tools, talismans, or formations, they may fight beyond their. Moreover, these major sects are the most troublesome. Killing the small ones leads to the old ones, and killing the old ones leads to a whole group. Even if she could win this battle, the subsequent troubles would still be numerous. Avoiding combat now is naturally the best option. Yet why did this compass suddenly fail? Are the Wudong people also using defective products? The little fox felt puzzled. Knowing they had found nothing, she prepared to retreat. But just then a wolf howl echoed through the mountains, followed by a chorus of howls. Awo! Awo! The sound of the wolf howls grew closer, and the demonic wind in the mountains rustled the leaves. Zhang Biu quickly drew her sword and turned to look in all directions. In the midst of the forest, large wolves emerged one after another. Demons, they are all demons. In the mountains around Yuhang City, there was actually a pack of demon wolves. A rough glance revealed there were about 20 or 30. The leading wolf demon was a she-wolf. She cast a sorrowful glance at the wolf corpse on the ground, and then let out a low growl towards Zhang Biu and her disciple. The eyes of the pack were equally fierce, staring intently at Zhang Biu and her disciple. Clearly, they believed the wolf general had been killed by them. The wolf general is the king of the wolf pack. With his death, the wolves temporarily obeyed the she-wolf's commands. They would select a new king afterward, but until then they would seek revenge for their old king. Everyone, this is a misunderstanding. I did not kill it. Zhang Biu sensed the dire situation and attempted to explain. The number of demon wolves here was too great. While she could protect herself, it was dire with her disciple. Humans, Taoists, shall die. The she-wolf growled lowly, and with a single command the pack of wolves surged forward. Their target was Zhang Lingxiu, who clearly appeared to be a weak. This was also the hunting strategy of the wolves: first catch the young, as the larger ones might reveal vulnerabilities while trying to protect them. And the pack's tactics for encircling prey were also clever. One wolf pounced, and as Zhang Lingxiu dodged, a second wolf immediately lunged at her. Zhang Biu reacted quickly, swinging her sword to intercept, but another wolf came to bite her leg. The wolves came one after another, and even under the pressure of Zhang Biu's sword energy, they fiercely clung to her legs and arms. After several exchanges, Zhang Biu's Taoist robe had already turned crimson with blood. Although several wolf demons had been slain, the remaining pack remained ferocious. Such is the nature of wolves. When they fight, they are fearless and reckless, only focused on attacking. As long as the leader does not order a retreat, they will not stop. In this situation, Zhang Biu knew there was no way to resolve things peacefully. A fierce look appeared in her eyes as her true energy surged. Woo! The she-wolf resumed her command, and the pack began to run, maintaining a certain distance from Zhang Biu. The she-wolf sensed that Zhang Biu was clearly preparing for a desperate fight. In light of this, the pack naturally saw no need to engage in close combat. They widened the distance, making it impossible for her to advance or retreat. This was the path to victory. Zhang Biu snorted coldly. A bunch of beasts using battle tactics. If it weren't for Zhang Lingxiu being there, she wouldn't have been injured. The strongest of these demon wolves had not even reached the strength of a demon general. They merely coordinated well and were recklessly fearless, which gave them combat power comparable to a demon general. It was only because Zhang Biu had a burden beside her that she found the battle so arduous. Now that she knew she could not delay, how could she let a pack of beasts control her? Whether you leave or not, all of you shall die. Zhang Biu's sword energy surged, and the magical sword in her hand shattered, forming a profound rune. Then the rune flashed with light, and thousands of blades shot out in all directions. Awoo! The wolves struck by the sword energy let out tragic howls. The demon wolves that were continuously hit by multiple sword energies fell to the ground on the spot, staining the earth beneath them with blood. This was one of the secret forbidden spells, the Shattered Sword technique, which shattered magical tools and unleashed immense destructive power. Though it consumed a lot, its power was not to be underestimated. The little fox happened to be within the attack range of the Shattered Sword technique, and when numerous swords assaulted, she was startled. Zhang Baiyu's strength was comparable to hers, and such an explosive attack from a magical tool was overwhelmingly powerful. The little fox could not withstand it. She could only evade to the back of a large tree, which was soon shattered into pieces. Yet to the little fox's surprise, the sword energies that flew towards her vanished without a trace, as if they had sunk into the sea. Seeing this scene, Zhang Baiyu was also taken aback. What was going on? Just as she was lost in thought, the she-wolf charged forward. Blood flowed profusely from her body, as she had just been pierced by several sword energies. However, she had stayed relatively far away, thus having fewer sword strikes hit her, and the ones that did not pierce vital areas, allowing her to still retain combat power. Zhang Baiyu mistakenly thought the demon would have died, and as she was distracted by the little fox, the wolf demon closed in. She could only hurriedly counterattack. But she no longer had a sword in hand, and could only throw punches. The she-wolf did not dodge, allowing the punch to hit her, while simultaneously lunging to bite at Zhang Baiyu's neck. If it succeeded, Zhang Baiyu would be in grave danger. In a moment of crisis, Zhang Baiyu swayed her body, allowing the she-wolf to bite down on her shoulder. From then on, the she-wolf would not let go, and Zhang Baiyu could only punch repeatedly at the she-wolf's head, the force of the blows reverberating back onto herself. After 3 punches, the she-wolf finally ceased to breathe. The demon wolves present had all been wiped out. Zhang Baiyu's face turned pale as she slowly collapsed to the ground. She had lost quite a bit of blood. Master! Zhang Lingxiu wept as she embraced Zhang Baiyu. She knew that if it weren't for her being a burden, even with so many demons attacking, her master would not have suffered such severe injuries. Go, there was a white fox just now, while you go check it out. Zhang Baiyu was more curious about the fox that had suddenly appeared. It seemed to have been hiding nearby all along. If not for Zhang Baiyu forcing it out with an area attack, it would not have shown itself at all. It seemed to possess some treasure that protected it, preventing it from being disturbed by the sword energies. Now that it had vanished, perhaps there would still be clues left where it had hidden. Although Zhang Lingxiu was worried about her master, she had to obey her master's orders. She arrived at the place where the little fox had hidden and exclaimed in surprise, "The aura here is exactly the same as that of the yellow weasel spirit." Zhang Baiyu had not anticipated such an unexpected gain. Yet upon deeper reflection, a chill crept over her. The fox spirit had trailed them for an unknown duration without ever revealing itself. Its concealment skill was so profound that its strength was surely no less than hers. Yet why had it refrained from striking while she was weakened, leaving both of them unharmed? Zhang Baiyu's heart churned with doubt and unease while Zhang Lingxiu discovered half a splintered wooden plank at the spot where the little fox had once lingered. Characters were inscribed upon the fragment. Li's medical clinic. So Dr. Li is indeed connected to the demon. In that instant, Zhang Lingxiu's mind exploded with wild conjectures. No wonder Li Yun could heal those drained of vitality by evil spirits, and so calmly slay the weasel and serpent demons. It was because Li Yun himself was a demon, and a powerful one at that. She had always found him peculiar, and now at last she had an answer. Master, there is a new clue. Zhang Lingxiu turned around only to see Zhang Baiyu already collapsed in unconsciousness. She had sustained too many injuries. The most critical was the wolf consort's suicidal assault. Knowing escape was impossible, the grievously wounded foe had chosen to fight to the death, aiming to trade lives with Zhang Baiyu. Though she failed to exchange lives, she inflicted severe damage on Zhang Baiyu. Coupled with the backlash from shattering her own artifact, Zhang Baiyu could no longer hold on, and panic seized Zhang Lingxiu. She quickly tore strips from her skirt to bind the wounds hastily, but for real treatment, they needed to find a physician in town or wait for a Taoist healer. At any rate, she must enter the city first and obtain some medicine. Uninjured, Zhang Lingxiu moved swiftly. Carrying Zhang Baiyu on her back, she returned to the Feng residence. Immortal Zhang, what has happened? Feng Shan, the head of the Feng family, hurried forward to inquire. Zhang Lingxiu replied, my master and I were attacked by a horde of demons. Please prepare some wound medicine. Feng Shan glanced at Zhang Baiyu's pallid face and could not help asking, she is so severely injured. Why not send her to Dr. Li? Zhang Lingxiu hesitated, withholding her suspicion. Li Yun's reputation in Yuhang town was too sterling. If she declared him a demon, others might not believe her. It would only alert the enemy. Better to gather evidence first. Until then, she certainly would not take Zhang Baiyu to Li's medical clinic. Would that not be like delivering the sheep into the tiger's mouth? I can handle my master's injuries, benefactor Feng. Just prepare some medicinal herbs. Hearing this, Feng Shan stopped insisting and ordered bandages and salves. After dressing her master's wounds, Zhang Lingxiu could only wait in stillness. She reasoned that given her master's cultivation level, once the bleeding was stemmed, she would graduate. Cultivators indeed had no need to call for a physician. While Zhang Biyu lay unconscious, Zhang Lingxiu pondered over the half-wooden token. A wooden plaque inscribed with Li's medical clinic had fallen from the fox demon. Could it really be that straightforward? Or was it a frame-up? Though Li Yun's behavior indeed seemed odd, it would be far too rash to suspect him based solely on a random wooden shard picked up outside. I will investigate further once my master recovers. Zhang Lingxiu kept vigil by Zhang Biyu's bedside. At midnight, she jolted awake to find her master burning, with fever faint black qi flickering across her face. What is this? Master has been infected with demonic poison. Zhang Lingxiu hurriedly channeled her true qi to guide it out, but her cultivation was too shallow to move the poison. The demonic poison surged fiercely. Her master, already wounded, might not survive the night. With the situation so dire, Zhang Lingxiu lost her composure. She had not expected the wolf demon to bear poison as well. This was beyond her capability. Only a high-ranking elder from the sect could treat it. But they were far from the sect, and even summoning help would be too late. What could she do now? That's right, Dr. Li. A flash of inspiration struck Zhang Lingxiu. Although Li Yun was enigmatic, he did possess genuine medical skill. Moreover, Zhang Biyu was already in critical danger, so she no longer cared about the risk of visiting Li's medical clinic. With that thought, Zhang Lingxiu hastily hoisted her master onto her back and rushed out again. Feng Shan watched all this in silence and shook his head. Young people these days were far too impulsive. Zhang Lingxiu arrived at Li's medical clinic only to find it closed. Late at night, Li Yun naturally would not stay the whole night, but he had hung a sign on the door for night emergencies: please go to Li residence, deep in Whooping Alley. Li Yun had left a way out. His home was not far, and for those who knew they knew, for those who did not the sign also bore an arrow to follow. Zhang Lingxiu began to run again. Meanwhile, Li Yun was busy making a baby with Bai Wanjun. Being young and vigorous, his life revolved around work and 3 meals a day. Ding. You have a new "is someone dead" order. Please handle it promptly. Li Yun. This damn system. It really had no regard for time, place, or circumstance. As long as someone sought medical help or lay gravely injured without subjective refusal of treatment, he would receive an "Dr. Li, save me, Dr. Li." If it weren't for the prospect of longevity in the future, he would have ditched this job long ago. But lives came first. Bai Wanjun's gaze was full of resentment. Yet she forced a magnanimous tone and said, "Husband, human life is at stake. Go ahead." Li Yun. His wife was so understanding that it made him feel all the more guilty. Seeing him still hesitating, Bai Wanjun blushed and whispered in his ear, "Come back, and we'll—" "All right, I'll be back soon." Li Yun kissed Bai Wanjun, quickly dressed, and went out the door, sighing inwardly. He was incredibly fortunate to have married such a gentle and considerate wife. In his past life, quite a few of his colleagues had seen green above their heads. Not that being busy at work and neglecting home inevitably led to that, but it was true that staying away from home increased the risk of being cuckolded. This person sure knows how to pick the timing. Li Yun grumbled silently, even as his strides quickened, and soon he arrived at the door. Opening the courtyard gate, he found Zhang Lingxiu carrying a yellow-robed Taoist who reeked of blood, clearly the patient. Li Yun used his kigazing technique and saw it poisoning qi depletion, invasion of external pathogens. The debuffs were stacked to the brim, and even he found it somewhat challenging. Why did you only bring her now? A brief examination revealed that some wounds had festered, others had formed scabs. It was clear she had been injured for quite a while. At least several hours. She was injured, and you didn't bring her then. You come to me now? You sure know how to pick the time. Li Yun's tone turned harsh. Not because his pleasure had been interrupted, but because this person had been negligent with the patient. To bring her only when she was this badly hurt. If he weren't cheating with his system, they'd be preparing for a funeral by tomorrow. Faced with Li Yun's complaints, Zhang Lingxiu could only remain silent. Li Yun couldn't be bothered to scold her further. Saving the patient was the priority. Bring her in. Li Yun's home also had a workspace for treating the critically ill. Though the workspace was modest, it was equipped with all sorts of tools. Hemostatic agents, sutures, silver needles, and high-concentration alcohol. Li Yun's equipment might not have been as advanced as modern facilities, but combined with his extraordinary medical skills, he could indeed save those who would otherwise be beyond hope. As long as there was a flicker of life, Li Yun could revive her. Zhang Baiju's condition was dire, feverish, clearly infected. Her physique was robust enough to endure for now, but without treatment, it would certainly fail. The most troublesome issue was the poison coursing through her body. The toxic energy was as ferocious as a wolf, extremely vicious. Take off her clothes. Li Yun instructed Zhang Lingxiu to act as his temporary assistant. In his eyes, gender was irrelevant during treatment, but others might not share such an open-minded perspective. Thus, having a female relative present was ideal. What are you hesitating for? Hurry up and undress her. Oh. Zhang Lingxiu unfastened her own belt, her face flushed with nervousness and shyness. Li Yun was dumbfounded, tempted to use the needle in his hand to treat her mental ailment. Undress her. Forget it'll do it. Li Yun, usually composed, couldn't help raising his voice. He didn't bother untying her clothes. Instead, he used a small knife to cut away the fabric and bandages covering the wound. Soon Zhang Baiyu's clothes were in tatters, leaving only a few strips covering the vital areas. At the wound site, Li Yun made an incision with the knife, cleaning the affected area. Even in her coma, Zhang Baiyu couldn't help but groan clearly in agony. Then Li Yun began to apply acupuncture. As for the wolf poison, Li Yun had no idea how to neutralize it. Concocting an antidote would be too troublesome. So he resorted to acupuncture. Under the guidance of his needles, the wolf-like toxic energy was forced toward the wound on her shoulder. A large amount of black blood oozed out. Li Yun sprayed it with alcohol and set it ablaze to burn away the poison. Finally, he applied hemostatic powder and bandaged the wound, completing the surgery. Let her rest here, don't move her and disturb the wound. You can stay and watch over her. There's a small bed over here. But my female family members are home, so don't wander around. Having given his instructions, Li Yun washed his hands and left. Ding merit, 3,000. A big haul. It seemed this patient was a person of great merit. Every time Li Yun treated a patient, he automatically received a portion of their merit. The more merit the patient had, the more he gained. Even if the patient's merit was negative, Li Yun's merit points would only be positive, while the patient would lose an equivalent amount. Saving a villain only deepened their karmic sins. With such a bounty of merit, Li Yun could now upgrade his medical skills. But he decided to hold on to it. His 3 core techniques were already sufficient to dominate. It was better to save up for martial arts enhancements. After tidying up briefly, Li Yun returned. Bai Wanjun was indeed still awake, quietly waiting for him. In fact, she hadn't been idle, as she had already learned the whole story from Little Fox. So the one who nearly died was the reinforcement Zhang Lingxiu had summoned. To be taken down by a pack of wolf demons, Bai Wanjun found it utterly ridiculous. Were Taoist cultivators nowadays so weak? A wolf general could be killed with a single slap from her, let alone its underlings. Bai Wanjun approved of Little Fox's approach. These cultivators were like a nest of hornets. Kill one, and a swarm would come. Not killing them was the right call. For now they would lie low. These weaklings posed no real threat to her anyway. What puzzled Bai Wanjun was the wooden talisman Li Yun had made. Little Fox had no magic artifacts, as she must have relied on the talisman to withstand Zhang Baiyu's spell. Now that Little Fox was unharmed, but the talisman was shattered, it was even clearer that the talisman was no ordinary object. According to Little Fox's account, she had been protected by merit, rendering her immune to all spells. But this baffled Bai Wanjun. It made sense that Li Yun, who healed the sick and performed good deeds, was shielded by merit and impervious to evil. However, could something he crafted also protect others? This was practically unheard of. Still, she didn't pry into Li Yun's secrets. Regardless, Li Yun was her husband. They resumed their unfinished business, then fell asleep in each other's arms. But Zhang Lingxiu in the workspace couldn't sleep. An opportunity so easily obtained. She hadn't expected to move into Li Yun's home so effortlessly. If there were any secrets, she might find clues here. Let's start with this workspace. Zhang Lingxiu began searching carefully. But the workspace seemed just that, a workspace with nothing unusual. Undeterred, she tapped lightly with her fingers and finally heard a hollow sound near a corner of the cabinet. A hidden compartment. Having confirmed the location, what came next was simple. Searching nearby, she soon spotted a small mechanism. Opening a drawer and removing the partition between 2 drawers, she pulled out a casket. Inside the casket was only a mask. The mask was an ordinary painted face, no different from a child's toy. Why would such a plain mask be hidden so secretly? Zhang Lingxiu was deeply puzzled. Could this be the disguise he uses for covert actions? It was the only conclusion she could draw, but a single mask proved nothing. After observing for a long time with no further insights, she returned the mask to the casket and put everything back in place. Yet her conviction solidified. Li Yun was definitely. She found nothing else in the latter half of the night. Before she knew it, dawn broke. Exhausted from a night of searching, Zhang Lingxiu was weary. Early the next morning, Li Yun came to check on the patients. He examined Zhang Baiyu's condition, though fortunately the internal issues were largely resolved. She had merely lost some vitality, which could be restored with proper nourishment. Change her dressing one more time, then you can leave. Make sure the wound doesn't get wet, and avoid spicy food. With these instructions, Li Yun led Bai Wanjun to the Li Medical. Ever since Bai Wanjun started accompanying him to work, Li Yun felt invigorated at the clinic. Truly, the presence of the opposite sex made labor lighter. Upon arriving at the clinic, Li Yun found Little Fox sleeping under the counter. It turned out that after learning Zhang Baiyu was staying overnight at the Li residence, she had reported to Bai Wanjun and then fled to the clinic to avoid a confrontation. How pitiful, unable to return home. She was supposed to be the family dog. Fox. Yet Li Yun thought the fox was clever, even guarding the shop for him. He'll make a little nest for you here too. From now on you can keep watch at night. Little Fox. Her heart was breaking, but before she could react, Li Yun scooped her up and stroked her several times. Whimper, whimper. The little fox looked at Bai Wanjun with a pitiful expression, her eyes seemingly pleading. Your Majesty, I truly did not seduce the master. How did your nameplate shatter so quickly? Never mind, I'll put a new one on for you. Li Yun helplessly tapped the little fox's forehead, suspecting she had been playing wildly somewhere, and knocked it off. But it didn't matter, he could easily carve a wooden token. Soon he engraved a new one and reattached it to the little fox. The little fox was also somewhat excited when she saw the wooden token Li Yun gave her. She hadn't known before, but after yesterday's experiences, she understood the power of this small token. With this, the demon-seeking compass could not locate her, and it could withstand a powerful spell once. Her safety was now much more assured. This was the benefit of having the right master. Alright, go play. Seeing the little fox obediently let him adjust the token, Li Yun was delighted and patted her head, letting her go out to play. The little fox, having received the command, happily went out and ran straight home. Last night the king had instructed her to keep an eye on the two Taoists. When the little fox returned home, she saw Zhang Lingxiu sneaking toward Li Yun's study. The Li residence was large, but with only 2 servants it was hard to watch everywhere. Zhang Lingxiu, being a cultivator, found it easy to evade the 2 mortals. Taking advantage of the moment, she crouched and slipped into Li Yun's study. If there were any secrets, the study was the best place to hide them. The little fox, seeing this, couldn't help but feel angry. This wretched Taoist was repaying kindness with enmity. Yesterday Li Yun had saved her master, and today she was sneaking around like a thief. What was she trying to do? Had she no integrity or moral fiber as a Taoist disciple? As a loyal fox and a canine, she must protect the family's secrets. Zhang Lingxiu was also very nervous. She had sneaked into Li Yun's study in broad daylight. If discovered, she would bring shame to Wudong. Thus she was extremely cautious, fearful of being seen. However, no sooner had she entered than she heard a strange cry outside. Woof! Zhang Lingxiu's hand trembled, nearly frightened to death. Soon the little fox cried out again. Wow! Eventually the housekeeper, Aunt Wu, came over. What's going on? Hearing Aunt Wu's voice, Zhang Lingxiu panicked even more. And why is the study door open? Zhang Lingxiu, in a greater panic, quickly hid under the desk. Aunt Wu opened the door, and seeing no one inside was puzzled. Li Yun had said the study contained nothing valuable, so she didn't need to watch it too carefully. Just a simple daily cleaning would suffice. So noticing the door not properly shut, Aunt Wu merely glanced and saw no one out of place, and closed the study door. After a moment's thought, she also hung a small lock on the outside. With the door locked, Zhang Lingxiu was dumbfounded. Was she now trapped here? When Li Yun returned, how would she explain this? Imagining that scene, Zhang Lingxiu felt nothing but embarrassment. No, I must find a way out. She immediately looked at the window, but no matter how she tried, it wouldn't open. Outside the window, the little fox pressed a claw firmly against it, blocking Zhang Lingxiu's escape. Just wait, you sneaky thief. Let's see how you explain this. The cunning little fox fetched a lock and secured the window as well. Then she scurried off to the medical clinic to report the news. The Li residence was not far from the clinic, so she arrived quickly. When Bai Wanjun heard of Zhang Lingxiu's actions, a flicker of displeasure crossed her eyes. This person had interrupted them last night, and now acted like a thief in broad daylight. Truly detestable. Yet Bai Wanjun knew they were cultivators, and unlikely to steal. Zhang Lingxiu's behavior was most likely because she had her sights set on them. It's very possible they picked up the half-piece of wooden token you dropped yesterday. When the little fox discovered the token was shattered, she was already home and had no idea where it had fallen, probably at the scene of the incident. It was normal for Zhang Lingxiu to pick it up and become suspicious of them. Your Majesty, it's all my fault, the little fox confessed. Bai Wanjun did not blame her. The order to follow and tail was hers, and the little fox being discovered triggering the token's trait was unexpected. So it was not the little fox's fault. Since things have come to this, words are useless. Go and deal with them. Make it clean. Yes. If possible, they did not wish to kill, as integrating into the human world made murder undesirable. But she was even less willing to have her peaceful life disrupted. Rather than being traced and exposed, it was better to strike while they were weakened. A severely wounded Taoist and a young novice. The little fox was fully capable of handling them. Little fox accepts the order. After accepting, the little fox crawled out of the room. Just as she reached the corridor, she encountered Li Yun, who scooped her up. I told you to go play, but where did you disappear to? I'd better keep you with me. Your fur is too fine, as someone might take a shot at you. The little fox. Master, you are definitely a stumbling block in my life. Meanwhile, Zhang Lingxiu, realizing she might not escape, began to search the study. If she could find Li Yun's secret, she might turn the tables. As long as she could prove he was truly a demon, sneaking into the study would be seen as a display of wisdom and courage. Searching, she indeed found a hidden small box. Opening it, it was filled with letters. It seems the secret lies here. Zhang Lingxiu excitedly opened a letter and read. The batch of Duanshu ointment has been produced. As you suggested, adding red gum grass and blood grass keeps the efficacy unchanged but leaves a red mark on the affected area, making it inferior. Your noble intention allows the poor to escape the suffering of limb disability. Additionally, the premium version is only available at Baotian Pavilion, priceless and hard to obtain. This letter confused her a bit. She didn't understand why creating an inferior product was considered noble. The second letter was similar, discussing chilblain ointment, but without mentioning the herbs, added only that development was smooth and profits were substantial. The third letter was about facial cream. At first she didn't grasp it, but reading more she understood. Li Yun had apparently developed many medicines, but specifically requested that inferior versions be carefully crafted. The purpose wasn't to make money, but to make the medicines cheaper and more accessible. Realizing this, Li Yun's image in her heart instantly grew much loftier. Could a person who quietly did good deeds be a bad person? Thinking of how she had secretly suspected Li Yun of being inhuman, Zhang Lingxiu slapped herself hard. I truly deserve to die. Zhang Lingxiu did not believe that Li Yun would deliberately forge letters in the study just to deceive her. These matters must be true. Li Yun was undoubtedly a good person. She decided to wait there, then explain everything to Li Yun and apologize sincerely. With this thought, Zhang Lingxiu no longer dwelled on escape. But at this moment, Xiao, who had returned ready to deal with them once and for all, she quietly unlocked the study door. After waiting for a while, she saw no sign of Zhang Lingxiu emerging. Curious, Xiao, who peeked inside and saw Zhang Lingxiu sitting cross-legged on the floor cultivating. She was speechless. Seriously, are thieves this audacious now? Since she wouldn't come out, Xiao, who had to lure her out. Her eyes suddenly glowed with an eerie light. When Zhang Lingxiu looked over and met her gaze, her expression instantly froze. Numbly, she stood up and walked out of the study, then made her way to the temporary ward in the house and picked up Zhang Biyu. Since they had already traced the clues here, they had to die. But not at home. Xiao, who planned to lure Zhang Lingxiu to a desolate wilderness, make her kill her master, and then commit suicide. The trail would end there, and even if Wudong tried to investigate, it wouldn't be easy. Even if they later found out that the pair had visited the Li family, many would notice they had left on their own. All she had to do then was hide herself. As for the Great King, her demonic aura was very faint, and others would hardly detect it. Xiao, whose plan was not perfect, but it was the simplest way to resolve the issue. If she designed too many complicated steps, it might instead leave loopholes. Simplicity had its advantages. Thus Xiao, who followed Zhang Lingxiu all the way while maintaining mental control, guiding her toward the city gates. A clever fox always strikes with a fatal blow. No one can save your lives today, I swear it. Xiao, who wore a proud expression, but turning her head, she saw her master carrying a medicine chest appear before Zhang Lingxiu. Slap. Li Yun patted Zhang Lingxiu on the shoulder. What are you doing carrying your master around the streets like this? And why are you so lost in thought? Hearing Li Yun's slightly displeased voice, Zhang Lingxiu looked at him in confusion, then at the master in her arms, and where she was standing. She was utterly bewildered. How did I get here? I remember I was in your study. Li Yun was speechless. What were you doing in my study? Seeing how candid she was, he figured she must have been bored and wanted to read some books. Though a bit impolite, Li Yun was too lazy to argue with the patient. You probably suffered a fright these past 2 days and got the lost soul syndrome. I'll prescribe you a decoction and you'll be fine. Li Yun casually offered his diagnosis for such a minor issue, but Zhang Lingxiu's expression turned grave. As a cultivator, though still a novice, she wouldn't lose her soul just from a little fright. Besides, she hadn't even been frightened at the time. Yet her inexplicable appearance here was a fact. It could only mean one thing: there was a demon. Moreover, that demon was most likely connected to Li's medical hall. Perhaps because she had been investigating the Li family, the demon noticed her actions and decided to strike at her and her master. It was only by chance that Li Yun appeared and woke her up. Zhang Lingxiu shuddered at the thought the unknown demon might still be lurking in the shadows. At this point, she could only turn to Li Yun for help. Thank you, Divine Dr. Li. I feel unwell now. Could you escort me back to the Feng mansion to rest? Li Yun nodded. Sure, it's on my way. Squire Feng invited me to check on his son again. I'll see what's wrong. So the two set off together. Behind them, Xiao, who was dumbfounded. At the critical moment, Li Yun had perfectly ruined her plan. But she dared not let Li Yun know about this. After all, Li Yun and the Taoists were of the same kind. The identities of the Great King and herself must never be exposed. Now that Li Yun was right beside Zhang Lingxiu, he couldn't act. Gritting her teeth, Xiao, who hurried back to report to the Great King. As she turned, she saw her master already lurking in the corner following them. Bai Wanju's stealth skills were also superb. If she hadn't intentionally let Xiao Hu see her, Xiao Hu would never have found her. Great King, the plan failed, and she might have sensed something. Bai Wanju glanced at Xiao Hu with disdain. This subordinate was loyal and capable enough, but her luck was truly terrible. Bai Wanju sighed. It's not your fault. Who could have expected my husband to be on a house call and run into us? Xiao Hu felt aggrieved. The Great King was so understanding. But I think you're too unlucky. Keeping you around might affect my fortune. Why don't you go solo? There are hardly any demon kings left in the eastern region now. It's the perfect time for you to rise. Bai Wanju began persuading Xiao Hu to go independent. Xiao Hu's eyes welled up with tears. Great King, give me one more chance. I won't be unlucky this time. Xiao Hu refused to believe she was an unlucky fox. She had heard that foxes were auspicious beasts in ancient times. What is an auspicious beast? It must be a symbol of good fortune. I am definitely not an unlucky fox. Alright, I'll give you one last chance. If you can't solve it, don't come back. Bai Wanjuan's tone was indifferent, leaving Xiaohu unsure if she was joking. Xiaohu looked solemn and quickly said, I will definitely come back. With that, she hurriedly tailed the departing pair. Now she was Xiaohu the assassin, ready to strike at any moment. Seeing Xiaohu follow Li Yun, Bai Wanjun felt relieved and returned to the medical hall. She had said she wanted to learn medicine from Li Yun, and he had given her many medical books to study, which was why she hadn't accompanied him on the house call. Once she mastered the medical arts, she would be able to stay by Li Yun's side forever. Meanwhile, Zhang Lingxiu, carrying Zhang Biyu, tried to extract information from Li Yun. Divine Dr. Li, where did you learn your medical skills? They are so miraculous. You even saved my master from such severe injuries. Well, 3 parts family tradition, 7 parts talent. I guess I was born to be a physician. Li Yun couldn't explain how his medical skills were so extraordinary, so he attributed it to Zhang Lingxiu. Continued, my master was injured by a demon wolf. There are demons lurking near Yuhang town, as I mentioned before. I never expected them to be so rampant. Yes, I've encountered them a few times too. Li Yun suddenly asked curiously, can demons take human form? In the stories he had read in his past life, demons could transform into humans. But in this life he had seen strange animals a few times, but never any that had taken human shape. So he was genuinely curious. Of course demons can take human form, and ordinary people can hardly tell whether the person beside them is a demon or a human. Zhang Lingxiu's words carried profound meaning, seemingly hinting at something. However, Li Yun did not understand, merely continuing the conversation by asking, what methods are there to distinguish between humans and demons? Naturally there are ways, Zhang Lingxiu replied. One can discern by scent. Demons are often transformed from beasts, and thus carry a distinct odor. Oh, Li Yun silently noted this. His sense of smell was quite keen, so if he encountered a demon next time, he would be able to recognize it. Secondly, consider reproductive capability. Although demons can take on human forms, they are not of the same species and cannot bear offspring. Li Yun's heart sank at this realization. He was indeed worried about his sister and brother-in-law's health. Despite being a formidable healer, they had been married for many years without producing any children. Over the years there had been some whispers about them. Most of it was directed at his sister, as in this era couples without children faced greater malice from society towards women. Li Yun had also done much to improve their health. Both were quite normal. Moreover, he had prepared various medicines to promote fertility, which had worked for others, yet his sister and brother-in-law remained childless. There are limits to medical skills, and Li Yun's abilities represent the pinnacle of theoretical medicine. For instance, as long as a person is not completely dead, he can save them, but once their lifespan is up, he cannot help. He can prolong life, but cannot cure. The same applies to childbirth. Li Yun could optimize their bodies for the best condition, but if they could not conceive, they simply could not. Hearing Zhang Lingxiu mention, this made him deeply. Could it be that my brother-in-law is a demon? Li Yun felt a twinge of discomfort. Wu Xiu had a good temperament, being honest and straightforward, strong outside, yet docile at home, able to entertain guests and manage household affairs. He held power, yet remained virtuous. In the eyes of modern people, he would be considered a good husband. But now this unusual behavior, could it not indicate that he is a demon? What, Li the Divine Doctor, are you thinking of something? Zhang Lingxiu noticed the change in Li Yun's expression and felt a surge of excitement. If she could identify the demon, she could contact her sect and directly pinpoint its location. At that time, no matter how powerful the demon, it would be hard-pressed to escape death. Li Yun shook his head and said, it's nothing. I was just thinking about some of the patients I have treated and whether there are any other methods for verification. Zhang Lingxiu pondered for a moment before responding. Demons often have ulterior motives when interacting with humans, seeking either essence or soul. Thus, those who have been in long-term contact with demons usually exhibit weakness in either their physical or mental condition. Oh, Li Yun felt reassured. My sister is 24 strong and spirited. Her vitality is undeniable. She was very active daily, and now that the family was wealthy, she helped Li Yun manage many stores. Otherwise, with her energy, she could run 5 kilometers a day without tiring. Does the Divine Doctor ask these questions out of suspicion that there might be demons around? Zhang Lingxiu took the initiative. Li Yun shook his head, saying, I'm just a bit curious. If possible, he even wanted to dissect a shape-shifting demon to see how its structure differed from that of a human. Of course, it was merely a thought. He wasn't particularly interested in pursuing a higher realm of medicine. If the opportunity arose, he would try it, but he wouldn't force it. In fact, being cautious is a good thing. Zhang Lingxiu stated seriously, the Divine Doctor who heals and saves lives must be a virtuous person blessed with merit. Demons love to consume the essence of such individuals because you carry pure energy that can cleanse their corrupt aura. Even if they incur karma for it, they would not hesitate. Am I actually a high-risk individual? Li Yun felt a surge of anxiety. He originally planned to slightly enhance his medical skills, but now it seemed he needed to improve his martial arts skills instead. If he maximized his agility, he would have a better chance of escaping if he encountered a demon. Li Yun couldn't help but feel a bit dissatisfied with his system. In this world filled with demons capable of cultivation, why wasn't he given the option to invest in cultivations? High martial skills would likely hold no advantage against cultivators, would they? Yes, so the divine doctor must be cautious, especially regarding suspicious individuals around you. You must remain particularly vigilant. The little fox trailing behind felt a chill at this point. This was bad. If Li Yun listened to Zhang Lingxiu and began to suspect the king, the situation would become dire. The king genuinely wanted to live with Li Yun. If his identity were exposed, the king would surely be heartbroken. Zhang Lingxiu had to be dealt with quickly, as she could not be allowed to continue. But if she acted rashly now, wouldn't Li Yun become even more serious about Zhang Lingxiu's words, leading to suspicion towards the king? For a moment, the little fox found herself in a dilemma. Li Yun smiled and said, "Don't worry, I am the most cautious person. If any strange people or things appear around me, I will definitely be on guard." The little fox replied, thinking of how she had been taken in by Li Yun and how the king had easily used a few words to deceive him. Hearing Li Yun say this made the little fox want to laugh. Zhang Lingxiu noticed that her words had no effect and felt somewhat speechless. However, she could indeed sense that Li Yun was likely not a demon. Nevertheless, to be safe, she took out a demon-drawing talisman from her pocket and said, "There are only a few methods for mortals to identify demons, but we in the mystical sect have many ways to do so. This demon-drawing talisman is the simplest verification method. Just stick the talisman on, and if it is a demon, the talisman will ignite." As she spoke, she applied the talisman to Li Yun's hand and activated it with her spiritual energy. But the demon-drawing talisman showed no reaction whatsoever. Li Yun could only feel speechless. After so many introductions, to conclude with the talisman usage was truly the methods of cultivators are quite useful. He returned the talisman to Zhang Lingxiu. After all, he had no use for it. Meanwhile, as they conversed, the Feng family had already arrived. Zhang Lingxiu finally breathed a sigh of relief. Once they reached a crowded place, the demon lurking in Li's family should not act again, right? Yet the prickling feeling of danger still lingered. The crisis was not entirely resolved, just slightly eased. With her master severely injured and unconscious, she could not bear such great pressure alone and still needed to seek help. Just then the head of the Feng family came to greet Li Yun. Feng Shan clasped his hands and said, "Thank you, divine doctor, for your miraculous hands that saved my son's life. However, recently Moer seems a bit lost in thought, and I do not know the reason. I hope the divine doctor can take a look at him again." "Alright, I will go check on him." "May I accompany you?" Zhang Lingxiu asked. "I have heard about your miraculous medical skills, and I would like to observe closely." She feared that if she left Li Yun, she would immediately be in danger. Although she did not know why, she felt that Li Yun's side should be safe. Upon hearing Zhang Lingxiu's request, Li Yun's expression also turned peculiar. "What, you're holding a patient in your arms, and still want to come along to observe? Show more concern for your master." Li Yun's heart was filled with silent complaints, but in the end he said nothing. "You can come along if you wish." He was not one to meddle in others' affairs. As long as he did his own part well, whether others were filial disciples was none of his concern. Hearing that Zhang Lingxiu had found another excuse to follow Li Yun, the little fox behind was utterly exasperated. This female Taoist was far too vigilant, truly her nemesis for life. Yet she had no choice. Those who stayed close to Li Yun were always under some strange protection, and she could not wield her sorcery. She could only gaze helplessly at the sky. Under Feng Shan's guidance, they soon arrived at Feng Mo's residence. After returning home, my son has been recuperating. His body has recovered somewhat, but his mind remains in a Feng Shan described Feng Mo's condition with some distress. He had heard that the others were mostly recovering merely weak, but Feng Mo alone was not normal. He seemed somewhat dazed. Zhang Lingxiu had previously examined him and concluded that his soul had been damaged. In mild cases, memory loss. In severe cases, becoming an idiot. Zhang Lingxiu could only pray for him and help stabilize his soul, but what had already happened could not be undone. Zhang Lingxiu understood the situation well. She thought to herself, Li Yun's medical skills were indeed remarkable, but could medicine only heal the body? A damaged soul was likely beyond cure. At that thought, she felt a bit awkward. She hadn't come to mock Li Yun, but rather sensing hidden dangers, she wanted to buy as much time as possible until her master woke. This condition is indeed complicated, but it can be treated. Li Yun used his gazing technique to observe. He could see that Feng Mo's body was slowly recovering, but the qi within his head was leaking outward. In his vision, it was as if there was a hole in the brain letting qi escape. Once the problem was identified, treatment became simple. If qi was leaking, just patch it up. Li Yun produced 2 golden needles and inserted them where the qi was leaking in Feng Mo's head, causing Feng Shan to tremble with fear. This was the brain. One wrong move could be fatal. But Li Yun's needles went in at least an inch deep. How could he not be terrified? Feng Mo showed no reaction, nor did he die on the. Li Yun's strategy was simple: block and mend simultaneously. Once the repair was complete, the leaking would stop. Then he would remove the needles. These golden needles must remain in his body for 7 days. Be careful not to bump them. He may still be unable to calm his spirit after the shock. He'll prescribe some sedative herbal decoctions. After 2 doses, he'll recover in 7 days. As Li Yun spoke, he casually wrote a prescription. His calm and composed demeanor left Zhang Lingxiu utterly stunned. Especially when he inserted the needles. They shimmered with golden light, then returned to normal afterward. Everything pointed to one astonishing conclusion. Could these golden needles be imbued with merit? Merit in the eyes of cultivators was something invisible and intangible, but when its power erupted, cultivators could glimpse its radiance. Its brilliance was like the sun at high noon. To those with a righteous heart it felt like a spring breeze, to the wicked, it was like falling into the deepest abyss. This sensation could not be mistaken. Zhang Lingxiu finally understood why standing beside Li Yun could ward off demonic attacks. If even his needles manifested merit, how much more, so Li Yun himself. This also aligned with what she had investigated. Li Yun was indeed a great benefactor. But that did not mean the information she had obtained earlier was wrong. The demon was definitely connected to Li Yun. Someone like Li Yun protected by merit was precisely the kind of person demons and monsters most coveted to corrupt. They might fail in a direct confrontation, so they lurked beside him sharpening their claws. At the thought of such a scene, Zhang Lingxiu couldn't help but worry for him. Just then Li Yun finished prescribing the medicine and prepared to leave. But Feng Shan said, "Divine Physician, Li, please wait a moment." With that he had someone bring forth a jade box. Opening it, inside lay a ginseng root the size of a carrot, closely resembling a human figure. It was plump, fresh, and exuded a rich medicinal fragrance. Even Zhang Lingxiu gasped in admiration. This was a 1,000-year-old ginseng. It was only half a step away from becoming a spirit. Once ginseng becomes a spirit, capturing it is far from easy. Such plants struggle greatly to attain sentience, especially medicinal herbs whose path to growth is fraught with This ginseng, having reached such an age, was an absolute treasure. You saved my son's life, and I have always kept that in mind. I specially sought out this 1,000-year wild ginseng. A fine sword for a hero, a precious herb for a divine physician. Please do not refuse. Feng Shan's words were sincere. This herb was not payment for today's treatment, but for the earlier life-saving grace. Regardless of whether Li Yun could cure Feng Mo today, he would have given this gift. Li Yun's gaze fell on the 1,000-year ginseng, and he could hardly look away. The greater one's skill in alchemy, the more one understood the value of such a herb. It could be said that even for Feng Shan, the richest man in Yuhang, and a notable wealthy figure in Jiangnan, acquiring this 1,000-year ginseng was no easy feat. This item could at least serve as a family heirloom. This is too much. Quick, stuff it in my pocket. Divine Physician, please don't stand on ceremony. In my hands this herb is merely a tonic, but in yours it can save countless lives. That too was boundless merit. Very well then. A token refusal was enough. Li Yun accepted the jade box, and said, "I will use this ginseng well. The lives it saves in the future will also be He had been somewhat displeased with Feng Shan earlier. That day he had saved so many people, and the others had sent their consultation fees and generous gifts to his residence, but not. Li Yun truly did not care about material possessions. But then again he could choose not to accept, but Feng Shan should not have failed to offer. It turned out he had been secretly preparing a grand. Divine Physician, please wait. Just as Li Yun was about to leave, he was surprised to find Zhang Lingxiu still following him. What is it? Zhang Lingxiu was also troubled. Li Yun was a treasure trove, but he lacked the power to protect himself. It was like a child carrying gold. Extremely dangerous. You saved my master, and I have nothing of value. This protective talisman, meticulously drawn by a senior from Wudong, is a small token of my gratitude. Please accept. Having confirmed that a demon lurked near Li Yun, she offered the talisman. Li Yun paused, then did not refuse her kindness. All right, thank you. He had no need for a protective talisman. Merit shielded him, making it useless. He would give it to Bai Wanjun later. Li Yun tucked it into his robe and took his leave. Seeing Li Yun depart, the little fox rubbed her paws eagerly. Was the opportunity finally coming? But just then another Taoist appeared at the Feng family's gate. Uncle Lin, you're here. The little fox. Wasn't this the end of the line? The little fox felt a surge of panic at the thought of failing her task once more, yet the Taoist before her was by no means weak in strength. Upon his arrival, he directly fed Zhang Biu a pill. She was already out of grave danger, and after taking the pill she immediately regained consciousness. Though her combat prowess could not be guaranteed, she was at least capable of action. The little fox gritted her teeth, and ultimately had no choice but to abandon the attempt. She could not risk exposing herself, or even worse the king, just to eliminate a few Wudong Taoists. Even if she could kill them now, it would serve no purpose. What am I to do now? How will the king punish me for failing the task? The little fox could only continue her surveillance, seeking any possible opportunity. Then the very thing she dreaded most came to pass. Zhang Lingxiu met with her senior uncle and shared her conjecture without hesitation. I believe that beside the divine physician Li a demon must be lurking. The little fox was left speechless. It was over, utterly over. When Li Yun returned to the clinic, Bai Wanjun was still immersed in her studies. Seeing this, Li Yun said cheerfully, "My dear, look what fine thing I've brought back." As he spoke, he opened the box, revealing the ginseng within. Bai Wanjun recognized it at a glance. It was a millennium-old ginseng, truly a rarity. However, Bai Wanjun had consumed many such herbs in the mountains. As the sovereign of the peaks, any aged spiritual herb that caught her eye was hers to claim. Though this was a precious treasure in the mortal realm, it meant little to her. Yet seeing Li Yun's elation, she feigned ignorance and asked, "This ginseng must be of great age. Surely it is extremely valuable." "Valuable? It is a once-in-a-lifetime find. This ginseng is nearly 1,000 years old. So remarkable." Bai Wanjun wore an expression of profound astonishment. Her act was utterly convincing. She was an excellent straight man, providing ample emotional validation. Li Yun said, "But the most incredible thing is that it is still alive. Once I find a place to plant it, it can continue to live. Then we can harvest its roots in small amounts, giving us an endless supply of millennium ginseng." Li Yun's mastery of pharmacology extended beyond pill-making to cultivating herbs with exceptional skill. Hearing this, Bai Wanjun cautioned, "I've heard that mountain ginseng that surpasses 1,000 years can become a spirit. Wouldn't it be a greater pity if it ran away?" Bai Wanqiu could confirm that this legend was true. She had once planted such a ginseng. Later, the ginseng had transformed into a spirit and escaped, never to be found again. Even with her profound cultivation, she could not locate a ginseng sprite that had gained sentience within the vast forest. This was the nature of plant demons. They matured late, but achieved greatness. Though their path of cultivation was arduous and fraught with obstacles, once they attained enlightenment, they surpassed many other demons. Li Yun, however, was unconcerned and laughed. If it can become a spirit, that would be its destiny. To have lived 1,000 years, it has not been easy. Bai Wanjun's heart stirred at his words, and she asked, "Husband, do you not loathe the demon race?" "Why should I loathe them?" Li Yun replied nonchalantly. "I've heard tales of animals attaining sentience. If they have the ability to become spirits, that is their own achievement. As long as they do not harm humans, what concern is it of mine?" Naturally, Li Yun stood from the human perspective. If a demon harmed people, it must be eliminated. But if they remained peacefully in the mountains, it would be unjust to seek them out and slay them. This world was not solely the domain of humanity. There was no need for such tyranny. Even in later ages, there were laws protecting wild animals. Hearing this, Bai Wanjun's gaze toward Li Yun softened with even more tenderness. She had never harmed a human, and had even studied human culture, yet hunters who encountered her in the mountains fled in terror, spreading rumors of a man-eating demon in the wilds. How infuriating! She did not eat people. She knew that humans held deep prejudice against demons, but she never expected Li Yun to be so open-minded. Still, she dared not reveal her true identity. Li Yun might not hate demons, but could he truly accept that his wife was one, and a tiger demon, the fiercest of all? Didn't men despise tigresses? "My husband is wise and just. However, this ginseng is indeed a rare treasure. It would be a shame if it turned into a spirit and fled." Bai Wanjun steered the conversation back, while Li Yun took a red string and tied it around the ginseng's neck, saying, "The books say that if you tie a red string around a ginseng's neck, it cannot escape, even if it becomes a spirit. I don't know if it's true. It's all legend anyway. There's no reason my legend shouldn't work." Bai Wanjun could not dissuade him further, and silently resolved to have the little fox gather more ginseng. If Li Yun's planted one escaped, she could secretly replace it to spare him. After tying the red string, Li Yun buried the ginseng in the soil. It was then that he suddenly recalled the protective talisman Zhang Lingxiu had given him. "Wanjun, this is for you." Li Yun handed her the talisman. Bai Wanjun looked puzzled and asked, "What is this?" "It's a protective charm from the young Taoist I treated. Keep it on you for peace. And you, husband, do you have one?" "Of course I do." Li Yun suddenly realized that his merit-based protection was known only to himself. Bai Wanjun might be worried. He knew he had no need for such a talisman, but Bai Wanjun did not. So Li Yun told a small lie. Bai Wanjun, reassured, accepted the talisman with joy and put it on. Then she took out an object and handed it to Li Yun. It was shaped like a fong, white as jade and warm to the touch. "What is this?" "It is a tiger's fong. It can ward off evil and suppress malevolent forces. Wear it for protection." Was this an exchange of gifts? Li Yun examined the fong, thinking it hardly resembled a tiger's tooth, but since his wife said it was, he accepted it. He'll find a cord to hang it up. He tucked it into his robe. Little did he know this was no ordinary tiger fong. It was Bai Wanjun's own fong. This tooth could not only repel evil, but also serve as a weapon. Moreover, any demon or ghost that sensed her aura would retreat in fear. Most crucially, the fong was spiritually linked to her, allowing her to find Li Yun wherever he went. This was a gift Bai Wanjun had carefully prepared for Li Yun. Though her fangs could regenerate, regrowing one required a period of arduous cultivation. Yet without doing so she could not feel at ease. With demons roaming near Yuhang City and Taoists becoming more numerous, the little fox could not always be relied upon. She knew Li Yun was protected by merit, but she had no idea of his actual combat prowess.